Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome back to TableTalk, discussion and discourse. I, as always, am your host, Alejo, aka Dnd 95. Yes, Indigo, this is the secret room. A secret room, in fact. Um, but, yeah. Welcome. I am alone for now. I know for certain that Aiden will be coming in later, as he is working. Unsure about Boo. He's been having a bad sleeping time. Sleep schedule is fucked, as he said, so he doesn't know if he'll be around, but that is alright. Fixing a typo? Well, it's immortalized now. um, yeah, so it's going to be me for a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff about Fate today. It's been, what, since episode 27, I think it was, since we've talked about Fate. Now, I don't know about you, but this is 106. So, we might have skipped a couple of times where we could have talked about it a few times, but you know, Sleepy Boo, go sleep. Yes. Nice, yes. We'll see how he is. If he comes around when Aiden gets here, then we'll, he's obviously welcome as always. But we'll see. Anyway, yeah, so Fate. We have not been secretive, I guess is a good word for it. We've not been secretive about how we feel about Fate. For the three of us, it's not something that we really want to play, right? Episode 27 was like a long time ago. Yeah, dude. It was pretty long ago at this point. I think it was 27. Now I need to fact check myself. I'm sorry. I've the tangent is here already. 27. Yeah, no, it was that one. That was back when it was Fate Core and what was it? Fate Core, How to Play Fate, I think it was, or whatever. Let me look. Fate Core's system and how it's an RPG, because we covered a crazy man's video about how Fate isn't an RPG, and it was insane. Highly recommend that one. Go check out episode 27 if you haven't yet. But yeah, so that that honestly, we went over very basics about Fate. And the basics that we had, we weren't really a fan of, and I remember reading Fate a little bit a long time ago at this point, and again, not really coming to the conclusion that I would want to play it. Now, that is, and obviously the other two were also like, Fate has had many iterations over the last 20 years. Oh, I'm absolutely certain, and I've seen, like, different properties that use Fate, like, Fate is, I think the Dresden Files has a Fate system thing. I'm not saying that I wouldn't play it at all. I just don't think I'd prefer it, but that's, again, based off of Fate Core. And when the core is the way that it is, it's something that, if I'm not interested in it to the point of not wanting to play it, then I'm probably not going to play the other ones, Even if they have interesting settings and interesting characters in those settings, right? But I'm not saying that Fate is bad. Never would I make such an assertion. Fate, the Fate Core, Fate, the system, is functional and probably very good. It seems very narrative, and it is, very narrative driven, and it is rules light, which you can already guess if you've watched the show for a while and how we think. Rules light isn't necessarily something that we rather enjoy, but again, we could adapt to it if we wanted to play it. So I found a couple of videos not too long ago. I've kept them in our watch later playlist. that have to do with it, and maybe we'll bring new perspectives that might make it so that we, or even those of you out there who find this and have never heard of Fate, or potentially just never wanted to play Fate, might in fact go, hey, maybe I'll play Fate. Because again, I've heard other people that I know are like, yeah, Fate's great, I love Fate, and I'm like, cool, good for you. I just don't think I'd like it, but I could be wrong, and I'm very willing to be wrong in this case. Yep, both Dresden Files RPGs use Fate, but original Dresden Files is a lot crunchier. There you go. Yeah, this isn't necessarily a episode to change our minds, but again, to perchance, that's a word. To perhaps is a better word. Give us a new perspective that we could use to judge them in a more favorable light, perhaps. But it's interesting because the first video we're going to cover today is actually titled Fate Core, the best RPG everyone rightfully hates, by Dungeon Masterpiece. Now, I won't lie to you. The title alone was what got me. Because I'm like, everyone rightfully hates it. Okay, that seems interesting. Why would you say that? Because I don't assume that everyone hates it, but I assume that what is meant is it's not a system for everyone, right? So, dunno. Perchance is the fancy version of perhaps. Oh, unintentionally fancy. Awesome. My brain uses words sometimes that I know and that I'm pretty sure I know the meaning of, but then, you know, I doubt myself because, haha. Anyway, so, and before I forget, I'll talk about it very briefly here before we get into the video. But very briefly, I want to say the dice are officially in production. The dice are officially like being made and etched and all of that, and it's going to take 4 months officially. As of 2 days ago, a day ago. I got the email, thankfully. I will be posting a screenshot of it in the Discord and on the channel and on our Twitter in a bit, just to, you know, give you proof. Gonna have to, you know, cross out names and personal information, but I want to make sure that everyone knows that it is happening and they are coming. And it won't be until July, right? I think that's 4 months from now. June or July. It's May, right? June, July, August. Okay. I guess maybe 3 months or 2 months. I don't know if the guy is counting this full month, but it's either June or July. I can't remember now, but they are on their way, and I won't have to give them money until then, unfortunately, because I wanted to just pay them right off, but it makes sense that they wouldn't take my money until the product is done, which is good. That's a good business decision from my perspective, at least, because you don't pay for something that they could just run away from and just take your money and never give you something. That's nice. But I also just don't want to have all that money just sitting in the TableTalk account, you know? It just feels weird. So we're waiting for that. But otherwise, yes, it's on the way, and I'm very excited. So, that being said, let's move on to the video, because I've waffled enough. Aiden will probably be here probably around 9:45 or so. So, it will be just me with this video for now. I'm sorry. Here we go! There it goes. Goodness. Took a second. Oh, sorry. One more thing before we start it. If any of you know of artists out there who are willing to do backgrounds, like for the actual, for the stream, I have an idea that I want to get made, and I need to see bodies of work, obviously, before I choose people. But I put this out on Twitter, and no one replied to it as an artist, so I was very surprised. So if any of you know of people who do art or are an art person yourself, let me know. Get me in touch. I do know of some people that were introduced to me before, but this seems more of a different kind of thing for them. So I don't know if they would be the necessarily the best choice. But let me know if you know. Otherwise, let's get right to the video. Oh, I keep interrupting myself to remind myself to say things. One last thing. Sorry, but this episode might be a little short. I don't know. It really depends on the videos themselves. These videos are shorter, and how much we have to say about them, or at least me for now. This one's only 9.5 minutes, and it seems very concise, I guess, in that regard, but I also don't know. So we'll see how long we go. If I need to find another video, I will. But for now, let us begin. I was very tempted to say and then just anyway, to go.
Good evening, Dungeon Masters. I'm Baron Durop. Fate
Thanks.
Core, published
Hello.
in 2003 by Evil Hat, is a setting-neutral role-playing game designed to turn the aspects of narrative roleplay into mechanical aspects of the game. If that sounds weird, you're right. It is weird. And that weirdness is what makes Fate Core one of my favorite RPGs so elegant. Yet despite their clear expertise in developing the game system, the designers apparently put minimal thought into its commercial delivery. Everything in the marketing, right down to its explanation of the rules, looks like an unapproachable piece of literature totally devoid of self-awareness. Opening...
Is that true? I actually don't know that. It's been a while since I've looked at Fate. Again, so you know what? Let me find my copy of it, because I know I have it somewhere here. Let me open. Yeah, there it is. I have a PDF of it because they let you do that for free. Pretty sure. I think I got this off the official site. If not, this is a very legitimate copy that I will pay for. I promise you. So I know I didn't go anywhere else to get this. How is this? I guess he has to explain further as to why this is an unapproachable looking thing. Doesn't seem that way. I scroll down. Page 6 is just a table of contents, and then basics, and then it seems like any other rule book. I don't know. That's weird. For those who think Fate is rules light, should check out Legends of Angler or Mindjammer or Starblazer Adventures. They rival Pathfinder on crunch factor. Oh, cool. Don't worry, I'm sure some madness lies ahead. Yeah, well, I missed what he said. I was typing. Yeah, he said that, and I'll pull him back again because I want to hear exactly what he said again, because I'm confused already, and then we'll hear his point.
The rules looks like an unapproachable piece of literature totally devoid of self-awareness.
An unapproachable piece of literature totally devoid of self-awareness. I guess I didn't pull it back far enough.
Everything in the marketing, right down to its explanation of the rules, looks...
Okay. So in the marketing itself, the explanation of the rules seemed that way. Okay. See, that's different. I don't know what the marketing was, but okay. I guess I'll have to take your word for it. Unless somebody can counter. But the marketing apparently was bad. Okay. Sure.
Looks like an unapproachable piece of literature totally devoid of self-awareness. Opening the book reveals how out of touch the game system authors are from the RPG community writ large. Its core concepts, while slim and elegant, are quite nuanced and extremely divergent from just about every other RPG system on the market. In a world where rule sets like 5th edition D&D are understood to be normal, Fate Core fails abysmally to acknowledge its own oddity. While Fate Core is one of the best RPG systems on the market, publishers have done so few favors to the typical RPG player that most people would rather just pass it by.
Okay, so what I gather then is that he's saying that it's not necessarily that it is bad. It's that it's different to the point of being so unrecognizable to the mainstream D&D / other RPG audience that it's just completely overlooked. Now I wonder again. I'm not sure if he's talking about marketing, but now, well, no, he's talking about when you open the book now, because he said when you open the book. And I don't know if I agree with that. Again, I don't know if maybe this is, well, this is the copy that I have in electronic form. That's the same cover. I want examples of how this is out of touch. Because I don't know. I don't know what he means exactly, right? Because again, in this they have for veterans and for new to Fate, on page 2, and this one says, you might be reading this because you're familiar with Fate from our other games, Spirit of the Century and the Dresden Files role-playing game. Several other popular RPGs like Galileo Games, Bulldogs, and Cubicle 7's Legends of Angler. That's the one that you referenced before, Indigo. I don't know how to say it correctly, so I'm sorry. Also use the Fate system. Okay. This is a new version of Fate, which we developed to update and streamline the system. You recognize some of what's out in here, but we've also changed some rules and some terminology. You can find a guide to all the changes we've made near the end of the book. Okay. Again, I just need him to explain what he means, because I'm confused as I keep going down, and it tells me what I need to play, what the dice mean, and also if there are if you use regular 6-sided dice instead of their special 6-sided dice, what each of the symbols would be. Players and game masters. Again, I'm just going page by page. That was 4. Now I'm at 5, which is an example game section blurb with some art. The character sheet is on 6, and then it explains what stunts, consequences, skills, refresh are. All this stuff, your actions. Again, I'm trying to find where this is telling me what the fuck what's weird, but it's not really getting there, so I'd like to know more. Yes. Perhaps he'll go into it further. Dude is bonkers. When Fate Core first came out, it was mega popular. It spawned about 4 years of clones and 3 PP support. That I don't know. Then it stopped around the time Evil Hat became uber political. Yeah, well. You know. Yeah. I guess, please tell me more, Magic Man. Give me your strange words.
A marketing department has succeeded when the brand becomes the thing. Searching the web is Googling. Blowing your nose is using a Kleenex. And playing a role-playing game is playing D&D.
Right.
D&D is ubiquitous, yet somehow Fate Core missed the memo. As an illustration of D&D's gaming culture effects, dungeon masters regularly try to hack 5th edition D&D into something it's not at all designed to do
Right.
because they're frustrated with how the game's tone feels. Yet many of these DMs don't understand that they don't need hit points, levels, and challenge ratings to have an effective game system. To these players, those mechanics, the HP and spell levels, are like air. They believe they are implicitly a requirement.
Okay. I guess if you're unaware of the breadth of TTRPGs, when did this video come out? Well, I guess if you're unaware of the breadth of TTRPGs, then I suppose some of this could be true. You'd have to be a fucking brand new person, I think. Which is fair, I guess, but this was in... When did this come out? Why is this not showing me? Show me when you came out. September 30th, 2021. Okay, that's weird. That doesn't feel right. Huh. Why? It also feels like this is low quality. I don't know if I can... That would help. Yeah, do that. He might just be talking out of his ass. I don't know. That's my problem. I have no idea, and I have to kind of trust him for some things, but like overall, I don't know about this statement at all. Third-party support. Oh, that's is what? Okay. Sure, that works, I guess. Never seen it before. Never seen that abbreviation, so my brain immediately goes, support doesn't start with P, but okay. I gotta run this back. I gotta.
5th edition D&D.
Oh, yeah. This whole point of your success means that you are. How did you put it?
A marketing department has succeeded when the brand becomes the thing.
Okay, so a marketing department has succeeded when a brand has become the thing. Now, again, I understand what he means because he then goes into Kleenex and all that, Band-Aids, and, well, I don't know if he said Band-Aids, but I know Band-Aids are the way, and that works, and D&D is the go-to for TTRPGs. Yeah, I get that. You're right. They have succeeded immensely, and it's not just the marketing department. I think it's also the product itself and the popularity of that product. Which could be marketing, or it could be a variety of factors. But regardless of the fact, okay, what does that have to do? I guess then he starts talking about how Fate missed the memo of being marketable. In which case I go, so no, Fate is a TTRPG. It's not. I would assume, at least, I don't know the marketing, but I would assume that the intent is not to be just like D&D in its marketing. It's more to sell it, right? To do as good as D&D, I guess. In that case, if they were to market themselves like D&D, it's different. It's a lot different as far as the system is. Again, I can't really comment on this more than I don't think this is true. I'm not sure. Or at least relevant. My source is that I made it the fuck up. Lux is correct. Well, I don't know. That's the thing.
Searching the web is Googling.
Like this
Blowing your nose is
so?
using a Kleenex. And playing a role-playing game is playing D&D. D&D is ubiquitous, yet somehow Fate Core missed the memo. As an illustration of D&D's gaming culture effects, dungeon masters regularly try to hack 5th edition D&D into something it's not at all designed to do because they're frustrated with how the game's tone feels.
Not necessarily. No, what we do in 5th edition D&D is sometimes we hack the game apart and to like we use it to create different, maybe it is tone, but it is it is more than that. It's like, oh, the system doesn't have these things, we want to add those things, right? Is it really a thing of tone? Maybe. I don't know. In some cases, I'm sure, but not. No, it's also just a mechanical thing, or to D&D's tone can still be consistent in a different like setting, quote unquote, right? Like using different mechanics, you can still keep the tone, I guess, unless we mean tone as in the system. In which case, if you make D&D unrecognizable, yeah, that's not D&D anymore in your definition of tone. I'm still confused as to where we are, I guess. Good morning, JR Sonic. It's good to see you. But yeah.
Yet, many of these DMs don't understand that they don't need hit points, levels, and challenge ratings to have an effective game system.
Many, sure, I guess. Again, very vague statement. I suppose. But also, I it's probably, again, for those people, they don't know any other way. And I guess that's the failing on Fate's part to become something that is more talked about. Though everybody's, I feel like people have heard of Fate. Fate seems to be one of the ones that a lot of people have heard about. But then again, that's just my experience. I can't say that as a definitive metric, right? I just. Fate Core was written and advertised at the time of release for the players that already had experience with Fate. That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense. That's why excuse me. That's why in the blurb it's like you might have come here from our other games too, cuz Evil Hat Productions did the other games, right? And they even give other things. They never even make mention of D&D, which is interesting. I feel like they could have. Although I don't, maybe it was more a licensing issue, quote unquote, right? Where they would need to pay to reference it. I don't know how it works. I have no idea. But you would think that they would mention it because at the time, at any time when Fate existed, D&D also existed and was more popular. That I can probably say definitively.
These players, those mechanics, the HP and spell levels, are like air. They believe they are implicitly a requirement. Entire YouTube channels have sprung up as a result of this frustration.
Oh. So if we're playing a system that is character based, class based, level based, all that kind of stuff, then yes. And again, I've already said, if they don't know of alternatives, then they're probably brand new to TTRPGs. Channels popping up because of tone is not necessarily what I would say. Again, I would say mechanics. Mechanical differences, the fact that some things just don't work well for them. A lot of these channels pop up to talk about these things and make changes because for them, they find it very fun and they want to share that experience with a lot of people. Which, again, totally fair, understandable. Please do so. Then you have, these things out there that sometimes are like, yeah, you could do that, absolutely. And like we always say, if it works for you and your table, do it absolutely. But for us, most of the time, it's like, but I don't know.
YouTubers like Dungeon Coach have hours of content attempting to homebrew 5th edition D&D into a different game. Moreover,
into a different game. No, a better version of D&D? 5e? Yes. I wouldn't call any of the homebrew making it an entirely different game, except for those that do total conversions, right? Would I call it a different game though? again, I guess if we're using the standard of it becoming unrecognizable, well, even so, that's one I might have to think about a little bit more. But I right off the bat, I think it's not. I wouldn't phrase it that way. Evil Hat has made the most Fate RPGs, but there are other Fate systems, Fate system games out there that use it in a different way. Yeah, I'm sure. As you said, and as we were talking about before, there are other Fates, but yeah, I'm trying to understand this man so far.
Moreover, a quick trip to any given RPG subreddit, and you can find tons of people dissatisfied with 5e who are senselessly attempting to hack in some other kind of tone.
Why the fuck would you call it senseless? Senselessly? Do I not know what the word senseless means anymore? Lacking common sense, wildly foolish. They're senselessly trying to do things to 5e? That's a broad and bold statement. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Unless you're talking about these people that don't know these things. Who are you talking about? I'm going to go with the best faith interpretation that I can, and that's he's talking about new players that don't know, like, how to do it, I guess. Like, they don't know the system very well, something. I don't know. This is weird. But like, best faith, he's trying not to insult people. I don't know. It might be hard to come up with an alternative to hit points that works, but I don't see how anyone would think spell levels are necessary. Yeah, well, with the hit point system, I'm usually like, the wound system is usually good for me. Like something like that. The alternate damages, like from vampire, that also works for me. It really depends, again, on the system and how it works. This guy doesn't like house rules, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea now. Am I the only one getting Garibay vibes? I don't think he's that there yet. I'm just really trying to understand where he's coming from. He's not saying anything insane. He's just saying things that I don't understand why. You know, straw man returns, kind of in a way, but again, I'm trying to go best faith. It doesn't feel like a straw man yet, to me at least. I'm very confused, and I want him to explain to me what he means by a bunch of these things.
Furthermore, you can also inundate yourself with dungeon masters who, upon being introduced to a new RPG system, try to do a lift and shift conversion of everything that makes D&D the tightly wound, epic, adventure hero fantasy game that it is. They try to take the classes, levels, and spells with them as if they're accidentally missing from the newly introduced system.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, okay, so again, he's being vague again, so I can't. Who are you talking about? Who does that? Who doesn't read the way that it works? Who doesn't read the rules and how the game works and then go by that? Maybe, right? This is a wild thought, but let me put it out there. Maybe they try the system as it is, and then if they don't like the system as it is, they try to change it, just like they do with D&D. Whoa! I don't know. Like, maybe they think that the system could use that. This is the thing about TTRPGs. You play them however the fuck you want. Now, I understand everybody will tell you there are RPGs that do certain things better than others. And I agree, there are. But I still will maintain and say that if you want to play D&D as the horror game that you want, or you want to play D&D as the space adventure that you want, or you want to play D&D as the marketplace simulator that you want, like, go for it. It doesn't fucking matter. It's totally fine. It can do that. You just need to change some stuff. Couple of things. You can still make it D&D, though. I don't know. Weird. Garibay is a special tier. Let me try that again. Garibay is a special tier no mortal can hope to achieve. That I agree with, Slay. That I agree with. Is this video about 5e or Fate Core? Well, so I understand why he's doing this, because he's comparing it to 5e and other things because they're more popular than Fate. Or 5e specifically is more popular than Fate. So I understand why he's trying to associate that, because, again, the people who come here are probably people who know 5e. More so than Fate, right? Usually. And this is just something they might stumble upon. And even if it's not for those people, it's also something for the Fate people, right? I understand the comparisons and using 5e as a jumping point for all these, points in general, but yeah, man, I don't know. It's fucking weird. My brain hurts already. And it's more just because I'm trying to figure out what his intentions are behind what he's saying than really the message itself. Like, I can understand the words, but the words make no sense to me sometimes.
Fate Core does nothing to acknowledge this behavior and explain why it's completely counterintuitive to the game's design. Fate might have been the solution these players were looking for all along, but the designers have done nothing whatsoever to illustrate why.
Okay, so Fate doesn't tell you that you don't have to take those things from the other games and put them into Fate? It doesn't need that? Well, no shit, Sherlock. It's Fate. It's a different system. It has its own rules. It doesn't need to tell you that you don't have to do that. Who are you talking about? Again, who are we talking about? Where are we? Where are these people that you were talking about, sir? I would really, and I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that at all. I'm sure that some of these people do exist where they just take these things, but I just, how big of a group are these people, right? In the vast majority, well, in just the community in general of TTRPG playing. Who doesn't read the rules? Who are we talking about? Again, 2021. I don't know, man. Very strange. And why should Fate need to acknowledge that people do this? Because people already know that they go around and they go, hey, see that game over there? I like that game, but I think there's a couple of things that I could change and make it better. That's just a thing that people do in TTRPGs as a whole. Again, why I don't. Would it be better, I guess, if Fate said, hey, you could not use these rules in homebrew? Because I would assume that somewhere around here it does say that. Maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, again, it's been a while since I've read this, but there's 310 pages and I can't read all of them right now, okay? I didn't think that I would need to read literally every page just to see if it ever says, hey, you don't have to do anything that is outside of Fate. Like, you can just play Fate as is, because I wouldn't expect to need to. To be fair, I can think of one DM I had who was too disinterested to read the rules, but he wasn't a good DM. Well, fair enough, but, like, that's what I'm saying. They exist, but I'm also, like, okay? Why? And I'm getting an energy drink, sorry. Well, more of a cold coffee, but cold brew coffee, quote unquote, with an energy drink mixed in. It's a monster, but one of those coffee ones. It's the salted caramel kind, and it's like one of my favorite drinks. Anyway, like I was saying, what's I guess, what is the percentage of these people that is so big that we need to cater to them specifically, right? If they want to play these games this way and they're having fun, then let them, Should be fine. Like, I would suggest for them to read the rules first and, like, maybe try to play it as it is first before they try to, quote-unquote, fix it, if this is what's happening. But at the same time, I'm like, where am I? Who are you? What's going on? Okay.
If D&D is the elephant in the room, then GURPS is the woolly mammoth. Back in the 80s and 90s, people thought that GURPS, or Generic Universal Roleplay System, was the bee's knees. This now dated game system allows players to pick up any number of supplement books like Imperial Rome or Y2K, combine their rules together, and play in a unique game setting.
To be fair, I do want to play GURPS at some point with some of these things because GURPS seems really cool. Never played it, and I know it's the generic roleplay system. That's the whole point, that you can play it in any setting. It does seem really cool, and I would like to play it. Fate Core is written as a toolkit. It's all about you taking the system and adapting it to how you want. Yeah, it does seem very freeform, right? It does seem that way. So I would imagine that that is true overall. But I also, it is itself, you know, the rules of how it's Fate Core. There's a bunch of fates that go with it, right? It's what you do when you want to just play the core rules of Fate, and you can just do any system out or any setting out of it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, GURPS.
Until Fate Core came along, GURPS had been the de facto multi-purpose gaming system.
Right.
Its popularity was so pervasive, the original Fallout video game was designed and programmed using GURPS. It was only replaced with the special system right before launch due to licensing issues. However, as GURPS...
I didn't know that. That's actually really cool. I wish that they didn't have the licensing issues, because then I would have had an experience of GURPS a lot longer, or a while ago. That's the words. Is that Aiden? Oh my god, it is. Hello, my friend.
Greetings. I don't know why. There we go. It took Discord a little while to pull its head out of its ass.
Sometimes that is the case. How are you?
Better now.
Good.
Out of work.
Yeah.
Ready to talk TTRPGs.
Good.
You know what I shall request of you.
Yes, I do, and I am getting them. Don't worry.
I trust you implicitly.
That's good. That's good. Good. You should.
Ooh, I for one like this. Oh God, I hear myself doubling. There we go. I like this stream art.
Oh yeah, I found the Fate core characters that are on the actual rulebook, and I just went, well, those are probably the best representation that I could probably use, and so I did. I try very hard to use more royalty free stuff, but when we're talking about a specific thing, right, you can't, like when we did the essential books for 5e, I used the player's handbook like art. It was just like, that's, I mean, it's also just I'm doing the thumbnail thing.
Well, like I like the color too.
Thank you. Yeah, last time we talked about Fate, I used the same color background. That was back in episode 27. I was talking about.
Yeah, I was gonna say this color background seems familiar to me. That would be why.
And then I was like, "What? You want to know a secret? Everybody's gonna know now." But the reason why all the white is in the background of the characters there, is because when I was finding this, I could only find JPEGs, right? And so I took out all of the white in the background, right? Made it into a PNG, and then I saw when I made it into a PNG, there were still specks that I couldn't get rid of, right?
Yeah, I've had the same issue before with GIMP.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, if I get rid of them, it kind of takes away from the actual things themselves. So, okay, I guess I'll just do that. And so I did.
There's never been a time that I feel more betrayed than when I download an image from the internet and I try to make the background transparent, and it's like I'm like set white to transparent, and then the whole image darkens and becomes like is 15% transparent, and
Yep.
sometimes that happens and sometimes that doesn't.
Yep.
And every time I'm like, you fucker.
Absolutely. The worst thing for me is when I go on try to find a PNG. I download the PNG, but it's actually a JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck those people that just put that shit out there. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like, oh, high res is compressed to hell.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, you are the same tier of person in my mind if you do that as one of the people who post like on like some forum. It's like, hey, I have a question about this. Never
Oh,
mind, figured it out. And I'm
yeah.
like, I will eat your babies.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Oh my god, I fucking hate that. I
I,
came here for the answer
I,
and you do not
I,
give me the answer.
I wish we could banish those people.
Mm-hmm. Well, um, so the video so far, this is the one that I was talking about before. The uh Fate Core is the best RPG that everyone rightfully hates, right? And so far he's kind of going like he's doing a comparison between it and other TTRPGs and why Fate is seemingly um fucking up. Um
Okay.
and so far it's been weird. Um he's kind of made assertions like people that come from D&D and again, it's a vague how many people, he's just saying many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who come from that will go in and transfer all of the levels and all those kinds of things from D&D into Fate already and um when Fate doesn't need that. And again, like I said before, I'm like, who are we talking about? Are we talking about brand new people that have never played a TTRPG slash have
Yeah.
never read Fate?
Are we talking about people that the only TTRPG that
Yeah.
they have ever touched is D&D
Or some sort of
or Pathfinder?
character, yeah, some sort of, leveled character hero thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
And in which case I would
mm,
say that is a very simple and forgivable mistake
absolutely.
that can in the end though it can be cured
Mhm.
by reading the player's handbook.
Right.
Um
Or your Fate Core fucking manual that you apparently didn't read.
Yeah, whatever the fate equivalent of the player's handbook
Yeah, it's
is.
just Fate Core.
Secondly, this. All right, so I have seen you do nothing but stare somewhat condescendingly at me.
Mm.
Um, but your argument seems an awful hell of a lot like a straw man.
That's what was also said in the chat actually, and I was like, I don't know, like what? Because again, I can imagine that those people exist, but I'm also like, why are we talking about them, right?
Yeah,
Like, what
that that
is
that that seems a percent of a percent of a percent because
right?
you've got
Exactly.
the percentage of people that play TTRPGs
Yeah.
religiously, which are if you're branching out into playing multiple different kinds of RPGs,
Yeah.
I would be all right demarcating you as you are an avid enjoyer of
Right.
TTRPGs.
Right.
I feel very comfortable in that statement. So that's already a percent. Then we have the percentage of those players who played D&D before Fate, which while most because like that percentage is like 85%
Yeah.
because a lot of players are going to play D&D before Fate because D&D is far and away more popular than Fate.
Right.
However, it's still it's still a percentage you need to take into account.
Yeah.
Um, then you have, off of those two percentages, the percentage of people that won't do their homework. We'll say
Mm-hmm.
that's about 50%.
Sure.
Then you have people. You can only have this issue though if everyone at your table does this.
Yeah.
If one of the hypothetically 4 of you goes, wait, what? There's no leveling in Fate. The
Mhm.
rest of the table will go, oh, uh, and then start to look stuff up. I hope.
Maybe. Well, even if they
Um,
don't, at that point, it's like, no, we're doing leveling in Fate, and then it's like, okay, I guess,
and
why
well,
not?
yeah, and if you are doing a leveling system in Fate, that's perfectly valid.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's not Fate Core anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. At the same time, I'm like, Fate, as was said before, Fate is a toolkit, right? You can change it however you want because it is, as we're talking about right now, in this point, it is very much like what GURPS was, which is the catch-all for a lot of things, right? Generic roleplay system, right? Or generic whatever roleplay system. But now it has its own, rule set that is different than GURPS, but it can still like facilitate a bunch of different settings and all that kind of stuff. And I would imagine putting levels and all that kind of stuff is totally feasible and doable, right? That coincides, I guess, with the rest of the way the system works. Good. Oh.
Mm,
Oh. Are you having an internet?
Give me 1 second. My computer kind of dying because I had the hubris to launch Prey.
Fair. Fair. Well, let me know when you can hear me again, and I will bring up some other points.
New game. Beautiful. We're gonna do that. Oh god, it's loud. Oh god, why is it so loud?
By the way, those of you in chat, do bring up points that I've missed so far. I do want to get back to them, to all the things before, just to see what Aiden has to say about them, as well as I remember at least the marketing one, and there was one other that was, oh right, the tweaking of systems. That was the other one. So we'll get to those at least. But if I don't remember any that you want Aiden's opinion on, please say stuff.
Hello.
Hello.
Aiden's opinion on what?
Okay. Well, we're just gonna
I'm
go
an
over the
opinionated person.
just some of the other things that he's brought up so far. So um first off, he talked about in the beginning he was talking about how the marketing like didn't work very well apparently because they didn't, they haven't really done it as well as D&D basically in a way. And oh, specifics I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm like, what are we talking about here? Why does it need to be marketed just like D&D when it's its own thing? And Indigo was saying in the chat that it was very popular when it came out, and apparently it just, the marketing was fine. I don't know. Again, this was one of the things that I was like, I can't really comment. I didn't see the marketing. I don't know the marketing. It's whatever. What does it matter, I guess?
So I am very dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I went to launch Prey,
Mm-hmm.
and this reminded me that, or sorry, it reminded my computer that Steam exists,
Okay.
which immediately started to get it downloading a Killing Floor 2 update.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, why the fuck is Alejo dying so bad? Like, I don't understand. And I tabbed out because I was just going to control, to quit Prey with the control panel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look down towards where the control panel is on my taskbar, and I
Right.
see the little Steam downloading
Steam,
thing, and
yeah.
I go, you fucker. So The last thing I had heard was Aiden's opinion.
Okay. All right. So, um, maybe the marketing thing isn't so important, but he was talking about the marketing and how it was failing, um, and how D&D became the household name for TTRPGs.
Yeah,
And
it's like Kleenex.
yes, that is exactly one of the examples that he used. Um,
Yeah.
and I overall, I was kind of just like, okay, it didn't do as well as D&D. What is the point here? Um, Apparently it didn't do well. Although according again, like I said to about Indigo, they said that or the it was very popular when it came out, because people knew Fate, and those people who knew Fate were marketed to for Fate Core. And whilst I understand that it is different, and it is well, that is the reason. It is a different game, a different system, and it's probably not, excuse me, not going to appeal to the wider audience as much, because D&D is so popular, um, especially when Fate Core came out, I assume. So I'm like, so the marketing failed. Okay. Because I don't know where the point was going, and again, if somebody else remembers, I guess, and wants to let us know what that whole point was about, um, it was there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I really don't know what it has in relevance. Um,
Um. Yeah, I think it's maybe that people can only like one thing at a time. And okay, so
your guess is as good as mine,
I'll
dude.
be
I have
I'll
no
be
idea.
straight up honest. I want to give this video a chance
Oh yeah, no, I'm trying to
before
give it the
I
best faith
rip
interpretation I can.
before I rip its asshole open. But
Yeah,
the things I have heard you say thus far do not instill me with faith.
good.
Um Now, I'll be honest. Also one more thing.
Oh yeah.
The title of this video, the best RPG that everyone rightfully hates.
Yep.
Clickbaity as hell.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? God damn it, I would click on it.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I
Um,
got it. It's been in our watch later for a
like
long time here.
I will fully commend you. That is a good title.
Yeah.
Um. But I'm not quite sure I follow the point of. Can we go back just like a minute and so I can hear him retell
We.
the point?
Oh
Because
yeah, we can go all the way back to it, I guess. I yeah.
was it is it not just is it not recent?
No, it's like one of the first ones.
Oh, okay. Nah, fuck
Okay.
it.
Again, if I misrepresent it, please let me know and I will restate it. But I still already don't know what the point was really. So I guess I might have trouble verbalizing it to a degree that is understandable. Regardless, I don't know if it was really important because I'm also like, why are we talking about the marketing? Um, because it has no bearing on whether or not people hate it. Um, Oh, he was
I'm,
saying
I'm,
that's right. One of his points was
I mean,
um,
to be fair,
yeah,
if a product has shit marketing, then opinion of it will generally be
true,
lessened.
true.
So if something has shit marketing, people will hate it.
Yes,
Example: Battlefield 2042.
yes, very true.
Um, that's why people hate it is the marketing.
It was the marketing plus when people
No, it
actually
is the
cared.
marketing.
Oh, okay.
That was shut up. It was the marketing. Shut
Right,
up.
right. But one of his points was that it was marketed poorly, and um, when you saw the marketing, it was it basically showed something that was incomprehensible. That was one of the words that he used. Um, and what I assume that he meant was that it was something very different from the D&D's like simplicity, quote unquote, right? I think it was 5e specifically he was talking about. And well, I know he was talking about 5e, but I don't know if he's talking about in relation to 5e for the marketing itself. But he was saying that, yeah, that's the case, and when you opened it up, it seemed to be unable to, what was the exact words? It was unable to acknowledge itself and how like weird it was. And I'm like, I don't understand. When I was reading through, because I have an electronic copy, because I think it's free. It's not. It's totally fine. Like, I go through the first 5 pages and I'm like, I understand what this is saying. It seems like a TTRPG, right? So yeah, I don't know. That was the marketing thing. I'm gonna move from that because that, honestly, it's the one that I don't understand the most.
Yeah, I will reserve thoughts until I see more of this video.
Yeah. Off to work. See you, Lux. If you like Super Mario, you can't like Final Fantasy. That's true. I played Mario, so I don't understand why I can't jump in Final Fantasy. Very true. So after that, he was talking about let's see. He was talking about how people Oh, this is good. Yeah, I was with the guy, Khan says, I was with the guy right up until he said Fate fucked up by not acknowledging a different game. Lol, what? That's not their job. This is too few steps away from the DM to be transhuman for me. That's fair. Yeah, so legitimately he was talking about how Fate doesn't seem to acknowledge that it's different. It is not aware enough to acknowledge that it is different, and acknowledge that other people exist who will come in and bring those character levels and all of those things into the game, and it doesn't do anything about that. And I'm like, why does it need to? Why would they have to say, don't bring this other stuff in there? That doesn't make any sense to me.
So I will provide the complete mirror of that argument.
Sure.
D&D doesn't acknowledge that it's different and doesn't acknowledge that people will want to take the leveling system out of D&D.
Yep. It's true. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know the point.
Did that sentence sound silly? Good, it should.
Right, exactly. I like Metroid. Yes, I like Metroid too. I mean, as well. Not just 2. Anyway. Yeah, so that was one. God, it's just, so far I'm very confused as to what is happening, because I'm like, Fate is a different game. The fact that people who played D&D might not know about it is just unfortunate circumstance in most cases. Though I would imagine at this point, and even in 2021, late 2021, when this video was out, a lot of people know about Fate. But again, I can't be certain of that. I don't have a metric for that. But from what we have done and from the discourse over the community, a lot of people know about Fate that I have seen.
I think that might be selection bias, though, right?
No, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I don't have a metric. I can't say it objectively. What I'm saying is, what I have seen, a lot of people do know Fate.
Because, as how would I put this? If I were to ask my D&D players, do they know what Fate was? I know they fucking wouldn't.
Yeah, brand new people, I wouldn't expect them to.
My rogue's roommate would, but that's because they apparently, like, we were playing a game of telephone through my friend,
Okay.
and they were telling me about all of the um um TTRPGs they played. They're
Ah.
like, I've played Fate, like Call of Cthulhu,
Mm-hmm.
Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, Vampire the Masquerade, and I'm like, yeah, my boy. Um, um, so, but I would also describe that as an avid fan of
Yeah,
TTRPGs.
exactly.
Um, and also the amount of people who would discuss TTRPGs like in a forum or even here and watch our stream
Mm-hmm.
are not representative of the whole community of
No, of course not.
TTRPG
And
players.
I wouldn't ever make that assertion. I'm just saying, like, overall, from what I've seen, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, most
From
of the people that I know,
the very involved minority.
yeah, well, most of the people that I know and have seen have been people that have played TTRPGs for a while, right? So,
Mm,
exactly. I don't know if they're like super fans or anything like that, you know, in general, but I have at least had that experience. So again,
I wish I had gotten the chance to play Fate because
yeah.
I still love the character I had.
Oh, that's right. I remember. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so either way, it's also like he's also saying this and I'm like, okay, uh I guess I don't know. Sure, we can't really prove it one way or the other. So, okay. Um but I'm also like maybe not though. But anyway, healthy skepticism, if you will. Um Normies are dumb, therefore this game is bad. So I don't think that's the point, right? The point that he's making more so is that Fate is less favored because people don't know about it. That's the point that I'm getting overall, I think. Um Although the everyone rightfully hates it thing from the title, I'm like
Yeah.
I don't know where we are in that camp. I Everybody that I know who has played Fate says that they like it. But again, that's a very small selection in the grand scheme. I haven't seen people say hate for Fate really, except for like
Yeah, there's a big difference between rightfully hates and is ignorant of.
yes, exactly. So yeah, he's talking about GURPS now. So far the only thing that I've gleaned and know now is that Fallout 1 was using GURPS until they couldn't get the licensing rights, and then they changed it to the special system,
Hmm,
which is neat.
okay, interesting.
GURPS has aged and more modern RPGs have been published, GURPS's overt crunchiness tarnished its own popularity. This is where
Oh.
Fate Core really shines. The notion of needing a handful of super dense supplemental rulebooks to successfully run a game in GURPS is entirely compressed to a 15-minute discussion between the players at the start of a Fate Core campaign.
Sure.
Do the players want Republic Rome on the brink of civil war? Cool. It's an aspect. Do they want a Y2K doomsday apocalypse where machines can no longer count? Awesome. Now that's an aspect too. Those aspects in game can be invoked to help reinforce the game's narrative. In essence, they become the foundation of the story and the game's mechanics.
So overall, the point, and I will say, okay, cool. GURPS is old and very, very crunchy. The word. Um, it is dense, whilst Fate can do the same thing, but it is not as dense. Okay, neat. Why do people hate it then because of this? Like, why are we bringing this up just to say that it's there though people don't know it, and it does the same kind of thing that GURPS can do, but with less needed? Is
Okay,
that really it?
you know what. I'm going to go off. I've had enough.
Okay.
I've had it up to here.
Oh my god.
Um,
You've just got
I
here?
fuck. Oh well, no. This point, my
Yeah, I know.
frustration in this point's been building for a while.
I know.
I fucking hate the fact that people are like, oh, well, this is less crunchy, so it's good. But up until now, I've tried to tolerate it. No, I'm fucking done. You can fucking learn, all right? You're
Yeah.
not stupid. If I sit down and I am told, hey, this is how this system works, and it has a bunch of stuff to learn. I go, cool, and guess what? I fucking learn it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I'm an adult. I know how to read a book.
Hell, even if you're a
Um,
child, like, you know how to read, usually.
I hate this idea of yeah, but I'm busy. Yeah, but I've got work. Fuck you. You're not doing work if you're playing TTRPGs.
It is true.
If you are doing your work, then I hope your work is playing TTRPGs. If not, you should probably go back to your job. I understand that you have a limited time to learn stuff. I appreciate that, because I do it also.
Yeah.
Um, but you know what? It's not that hard to fucking learn a system and learn the rules for the system. Just if there may be 5 new rules, there may be 50.
Right.
You are capable. I believe in you. Shut the fuck up and stop saying that crunchy systems are bad.
Now, now I will be the one who is not so heated. Uh, I don't think he's necessarily saying that it's bad. I'm not sure about that. But I do at least agree with the general consensus of when most people do say that, that is what they're saying for some reason. And I'm like, ah. Like, yeah, um, even if you don't have the
That
time to read it all the way through, you can at least reference it while you're at the table. Like, it's
the
there's a table of contents, there's an index. Like, these things are there for you to look through something to like find what you need to know. Um,
it, if I may provide a quick
I
interjection,
would love to let you.
the reason for my frustration is not specifically because of like his video.
Sure, sure, sure.
It's just because I'm tired of it being like
I,
cited as a reason.
Absolutely, and I understand that entirely. I'm just kind of making it a clearer kind of thing. I
Yeah.
don't think that's what he's saying. It's just one of those things where I understand the frustration is there. I'm kind of growing more used to it because it's like once I just hear that, I go, well, okay, so that's the
I
thing.
I can understand the appeal of a lighter system
Yeah.
versus a crunchier system
Hmm.
just because since it is easier to learn,
Yes.
then you have to worry less about fucking things up moving
Yes.
forward. You're not going to discover 3 sessions in that you've been doing things wrong all this time.
Hmm.
And you know what? I fully get that and I fully relate to that.
Hmm.
Um, but then I just go, oh, whoops, haha, fuck me, and then you change it.
Yeah.
Um, because I am an adult and I am comfortable with the idea that I can be wrong sometimes.
Yeah. Exactly. The the crunchy versus light thing is just not something that I want to
Uh,
deal with. You know, it's just
yeah,
in general is
it allows you to pick up and run with the system a lot quicker.
yeah, which is great, but it's also like
Yeah,
if I care about it and I actually want to play it, then I'll take the time. Like that's just it,
you'll take the time exactly.
right? And with this, I'm like, overall for this point, I'm like, okay, so we're establishing that Fate can do what GURPS can do. Okay, with a little less. Okay, like again, I'm waiting for the point that he's making where people hate this because I'm like, before you were talking about that people tweak D&D. I didn't remember to talk about this. You were talking about people tweak D&D because they're trying to change the tone of the game or something. And I'm like, I don't think tone is necessarily always the case, but they do try to change things to either enhance it or change it a little bit to fit more with their table or with their own playstyle and all that kind of shit. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And he was talking about how you don't need to do that in Fate. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you don't. Okay. So people do this not because they don't want to play D&D. It's just because they want to play D&D but a little different. Sometimes if they do a complete overhaul, it's no longer recognizable, but then they're no longer playing D&D, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
in that case, okay, they're not playing D&D. But either way, like, what does this have to do with Fate being hated? I'm again still trying to find that point. Where are we? Um so, yeah. Uh rephrase, this game is poorly written because normies are dumb. Ah, that's what, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know why he would cite, like, when you open up Fate, it's hard to understand. It's like, no, it's really not, but okay. Like, not even for quote unquote normies, you know? Like, this, I don't understand what his point is in that respect. There was going to be a Fallout GURPS RPG, but it never got finished. There were creative differences. Fair enough. That's why they made their own later on. The version of Fate that is the GURPS of Fate is the Strands of Fate RPG, not Fate Core. Oh, well, there you go. I don't know. I think Fate Core can also serve, because it is, like you said, a toolkit before, so you can just fucking go for it. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Fate is Fate is Fate. It's Fate. I know they're not all the same. I'm just saying. That's it. I'm done. You just got here, though. Yeah. Well, yeah. He's comparing a non-D&D RPG that came out in 2013 to the popularity of 5e today. I don't know, man.
Yeah, like
It's two different games.
D&D
like,
D&D 5e is a lot less crunchy than basic.
Yeah, that's true.
But that is, I think, more due to the fact that the iterations
Yeah.
in between, like design iterations, tend to almost always follow the least common denominator.
That's true.
And things get simpler and rolled in together every single time in between every iteration ever. This is the equivalent of like the evolution and like carcinization.
Yeah.
Like everything becomes a crab eventually.
Yeah.
Um,
Can't wait to be a crab, dude.
dude, I could go for being a crab.
I think only crab.
No, I don't even know the line, but like either way, you start something, you get pinch.
That's right. Yeah. So I guess let's continue. I'm the fuck. Where are we? I don't know. I didn't think that this would take this long.
Mess with the crab, you get the stab.
That's right.
Why, oh, why would the publishers of Fate Core also create tons and tons of GURPS-like supplements? Except they aren't. They're worse. Published on Evil Hat's website is an extremely comprehensive list of Fate worlds, some 50 or so modules, each roughly 50 pages long, detailing a game world with niche mechanics, each one looking like two random GURPS supplements were poured from a blender. Granted, it's unfair.
Okay, that's a module, like yeah, that's like saying, oh, what's the name of the most recent the college D&D module?
Oh, Strixhaven thing or something?
Yeah, that's like saying, like, oh, the Strixhaven. Oh, why would they make Strixhaven?
Yeah,
Like,
he's saying worse, and unfortunately the man has not qualified any of these statements. He's just saying things, and I'm over here like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. You're not giving me examples. You're not giving me any reason to trust that this is true. Granted, it very well might be. I just don't know. I thought that this video would tell me things about why it's bad or hated or whatever.
He's playing 5D chess.
Yeah.
He's not giving you specifics, so you can't prove him wrong.
Oh, very true. This game is poorly written because other games exist. Exactly. Like, he's like, oh, these settings are like 2 different settings of GURPS rolled into one, and that's worse. And I'm like, that doesn't sound worse. That
Look,
just sounds like 2 ideas that have been meshed together into a module. Neat.
look, I'm not saying D&D is trash, right?
Right.
But if D&D were so good, why would they make Pathfinder?
Exactly. Like, that's the same energy. It's so weird.
Fair to call each Fate world worse than any single GURPS supplement when stood separately from each other. But if the Fate worlds are observed as a whole, there is one Fate world module that is painfully missing. A standard issue, Dark Age fantasy world with verbose guidelines on how to manage spellcasting, how to create magic items, and how to do combat in Dungeons with Dragons.
Oh, shut the fuck up. No, come on. Don't be like that. Fate has everything. Oh man, but it doesn't have something that is basically D&D to get those D&D players to come in. Okay. I'm sure that it has fantasy settings, but you even said that the game itself doesn't do that shit. So why should it have to? Is this why people hate it because it's not D&D? That's dumb. That's not a reason. Why would I hate something that isn't something else? That's fucking dumb.
In fairness,
Yeah.
I would criticize the publishers for not doing a very basic magic world fantasy bullshit.
I would imagine there is one. That's the problem. I think there probably is. Now, I guess I would have to fact check it, but at this point, like, I don't believe the guy. 'Cause, like, how? How is that possible? And again, I don't think he's gonna give any examples or anything. So you know what? Let's do it. Let me look at the... Anyway, continue on with your point. I'm sorry.
Just because essentially making off-brand D&D would be a very good way to get a lot of business, because you create a potential stepping stone essentially for a market.
Yeah, I guess my issue is he himself has admitted that you can do whatever the fuck in Fate, right? And I'm already here at feudal England. Like, that exists, so we could do some tweaking. Let's see. Future is a no. UFOs are a no. Spanish conquistadors, what? Aliens. There's a D&D equivalent of on drive-thru RPG for Fate, but is it official? That's my question. I suspect he smoked some herb before recording. He's all over the place. Maybe, dude, I don't know, man. Grimoire. Demon summoning is banned in Ganseldom by religious and civil authorities alike. Nobles and warlocks. Boo. You become a warlock with demon summoning. Cool. Demon creation rules. I mean, that's closer. The agency. Yeah, I guess if there isn't one, okay. But I also, again, I don't think it needs to be exactly the same in order for it to be appealing to the D&D crowd. That's stupid. I don't think that needs to be as long as you just have a magic system or you just have a medieval system. Both of those can be appealing, and again, you can combine things. Whoa. That's just how Fate works, right? And especially if you have all these supplements that you can take from both things and put them together, because they are made for the same system.
Yeah, so I'm going to provide some anecdotal evidence
Please.
of the small niche of people the small niche of D&D players I have met.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I found Epic
if
Fantasy.
if you that's damning.
Epic
Was it
Fantasy with sci-fi elements, so it's a little different, but anyway, go
was
on.
it released by the time that the video was out?
2021 was the time the video was out. Let me check. By now at Drive-Thru RPG. No, I just need to see release. It's Knights of Invasion is what this one's called. So it seems to be aliens as well, but
Yeah.
even so, Epic Fantasy.
Yeah. No, you could just as easily make a D&D game about
Mm-hmm.
you are an adventurers guild taking on the yeah, I don't know, some empire of aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, the anecdotal evidence of the people of D&D players that I have met has been that most D&D players I know
Mm-hmm.
crave novelty. If you say, "Hey, I've got a sick ass new magic system I made, a new alchemy system, and in this like new world I'm making," people will go, "Sick! Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to check it out." Um, so the fact that you can do the fucking anything
Yeah.
in Fate would be very much to Fate's benefit,
Yeah.
because if you ask a table full of people, describe for me a TTRPG you would like to play, describe how it would work. You can then take everything that every single person says, blend it together into a TTRPG homunculus,
Mm-hmm.
and it would likely be done with Fate.
Yes. Exactly. From what I can gather, at least here, it was part of a 2016 bundle.
Ooh.
So 2016 is 5 years before the video. I don't know if that's when it was released. It's hard to tell. I think it is electronic only, so I can only find it on Drive-Thru RPG. But I can't see
Still,
anything.
and it is official.
Yes, it is official. This is official.
Mm,
Um,
that's pretty damning.
yeah. So, again, this game is poorly written because it doesn't acknowledge a different game. Yeah. Mind flayers. Yeah, you could have it be mind flayers that you're fighting. Absolutely, because they're
Yeah,
aliens.
you could, yeah.
But as I keep going, like, I'm just seeing many different things. A lot of them seem to be sci-fi, which is cool. But also like there are other things with just magic in general. You've got gods and monsters here. You're like a where you become gods. That's neat.
How expensive is each module?
On Drive-Thru RPG for the Knights of Invasion, it is suggested price $4.
Okay, so you were saying it would be cheaper to get two modules, such as Gods and Monsters
Mm-hmm.
and the
Knights of
high
Invasion.
fantasy alien. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It would be cheaper to buy both of those than it would be to buy one edition of D&D.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, that's pretty damning.
And I guess the only thing that's stopping you is your knowledge of these things, and that can be solved by somebody recommending it or you doing some research and becoming more interested in TTRPGs. Like I understand that it's not always going to be the case that people are going to find these things, but it's there, and that's already enough. I, what are you supposed to do besides hope that I guess the marketing team at Evil Hat went, "Hey, look at this, everybody," right? And they were successful. So I guess, yeah, they failed at marketing. Oh
I
no, but
wonder
they
if
have the
they
ability.
I wonder if they have a Thirsty Sword Lesbians module.
They don't. That's official for Fate. No, they just have Thirsty Sword. They just have that game. Mouth won't speak. Anyway, okay. So, it's just man. Okay, let's see what this next point is.
By contrast, the most common way new 5th edition dungeon masters are taught to run a game is to use the D&D Starter Kit. Everything in that kit leans into an assumed understanding of a typical fantasy world. The kit trusts.
Having read the GM's guide, I never got the Buy the Essentials kit.
Yeah, I mean, I read my PHB. I never bought. I had the PHB, the Monster Manual, and DM's Guide. I never read the DM's Guide. I read the PHB. Well, I didn't. I read some of the DM's Guide. Excuse me.
I skimmed through the DMG, and what the overall feeling I got was not buy the starter kit. It was the overall feel that I got was, boy, do whatever the fuck you want.
Exactly. Like they market this. They marketed this. Maybe they marketed it more heavily in 2013. Back when Fate was a thing that was new, I guess. It might have been more heavily marketed, though. They had quite a few of these starter kits. They, in fact, had the Lost Mines of Phandelver, which was the starter kit, for a long time, and I don't know when that was. Let's do some fact checking. Lost Mines of Phandelver. That comes up immediately. Release. When did this come out? 2014. So a year after. Potentially. So then, what about the Essentials kit? I guess. Essentials kit. D&D. 2019. What the fuck are we talking about this for then? What? I remember the Lost Mines of Phandelver being the thing. So what does this have? Like, it doesn't. I don't think anything points to the Essentials kit ever, really. They point more to go on to our website, get the basic rules, which maybe that one does. Basic rules. Now I'm trying to steel man you, my man. Like, I really am. All right. Download. Yes. This was last updated in 2018. Ooh, so I don't know. We'll see. Basic rules. Let's just go kind of like let's look at the table of contents here. On page 2. What comes next? That's probably gonna help. 180, the very end. Okay. The starter set, is the great next step. This is the Essentials kit. It's completely different. I don't know if they changed this. Somebody can correct me if that's true, but it's pointing me to the starter set. And when did the starter set come out? Starter set. A lot of research today. D&D release. But it's important because this guy is making points. 2000? No, 5e. I need 5e. Not the one from 2008. Calm down. This was on Dicebreaker. Please tell me when it is. This is... Wait, what is this? 2014. 2014. That was... Wait... I was really hoping you were right, friend, but I don't think you are. So why are we talking about the Essentials kit when it doesn't seem to be pointed to at all? Okay. Evil Hat. Oh, sorry. Nobody reads the DMG most of the time. Evil Hat switched primarily to Blades in the Dark and PBTA. Which one is that one? What's that one? PBTA. I don't know that one from the acronym. Derived games about 3 or 4 years ago. This guy. Yeah. I think he's trying to talk about 2013, which I'm like, okay. People didn't hate it. People don't hate it. I don't know. You are not proving this to me. In fact, I'm in the opposite camp now. I think people love it. No, but like, I'm seeing no evidence here. I'm just seeing you go, this is different than D&D.
That a new DM has a working knowledge that dragons, necromancers, and goblins are all bad news, and proceeds to teach them how to play D&D under those assumptions. Fate Core completely fails at this. Unlike GURPS, which gave players separate books about monsters, dragons, and spellcasting, Fate Core only provides extremely niche, esoteric.
Okay, spoilers for anyone who's in my campaign. Fucking leave. 3, 2, 1. Alright, you've been warned. I have in my campaign a friendly lich that the party has already talked to. And the reason he became a lich is because he's researching the subject of death. Which is why he's a lich and a necromancer, which sounds sort of bad, but he is trying to find a way to make it so that no one will ever have to die again.
Cool.
It is his goal, and he's told the party, he's like, I want the word bereavement to be forgotten.
Cool. Naive, but cool.
Yeah, fully is.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and it'll never work, but like it's his goal that it will.
Yeah, good for him. Everybody's gotta go.
And the reason he became a lich is so that he can devote essentially infinity to figure this out.
That makes sense.
And he's like, he became like a lich 150 years ago, and he's like, it is my goal that I am the last that has to die. Because he's like, I have, what does true resurrection give you, 600 years?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's like, I've got like such and such amount of time to figure it out.
Yeah.
And once I figure it out, I am going to travel the world on foot and bring back everyone I can.
Oh, cool.
It'll never work, but
goal.
he doesn't know that.
Oh, of course
not. However, there was a group of kobolds in the area that he was like, having these like little fuckers in the area is like spoiling the rate that my research is going at, because they're like fucking with people and things. And so he essentially took a clone of himself, polymorphed it into a dragon, and appeared before the kobolds, and was like, there is a lich in this tower, and then shrank from polymorph form back into the human form.
Right.
And was like, and I am that lich. Serve me, and I shall make you all into true dragons.
Hey, there you go.
And now they're kind of like his like foot patrol bodyguards, but it's really just so he can keep an eye on them. And he is giving the leader, gave like a skunk in a cage to mimic a very weak green dragon breath.
Yeah.
He has like a satchel of like these little marbles that he throws, and then the target like freezes over. For a white dragon breath. 2 pieces of felt that the person can like walk up to a target, and I have it as a 10-foot charge attack. and they walk up rubbing the felt together and go with the static electricity. And each one of those things does like 1d4.
Right.
So like technically he is arming some potentially hostile kobolds.
Right. Yeah.
Or just like he's like I'll just choose one kobold and I will make it into Tiamat. That's what I'll do.
Right.
It's like that will get these things like I will know where they are and what they're doing. I will give them little quests. I will tell them to like pick me some flowers on a hillside or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that will get them like out from under my hair or
Right.
my yeah. So fully though, you can play D&D where a lot of the creatures that are the baddies
Right.
are the fully not.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't imagine why you wouldn't want to sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
I've been searching through the copy of the Fate Core PDF that I have. And I'm trying to find why he would say that it does a horrible job at telling people what. Basically, he's saying that it doesn't do well at explaining what enemies are. And I'm like, okay, maybe? So I'm going through. And I'm in the setting up your game thing. And this is making the setting work in Fate. This is on page 20. And it says, decide what the world that surrounds the protagonists is like. You're probably already familiar with the idea of a setting, but in short, it's everything that the characters interact with, such as people, organizations, and institutions, technology, strange phenomena, and mysteries, crime, intrigue, and cosmic or historical legend. These are the sort of things that characters want to engage with and are forced to engage with, look to for help, or stand in their way. If you're using a setting that already exists from a movie, novel, or other game book, then many of these ideas are ready for you to use. Of course, you'll also likely add your own spin on things, new organizations, or different mysteries to uncover. If you're inventing a setting, you have more work cut out for you. It's beyond the scope of this chapter to tell you how to make a setting. We're assuming you already know how to do that, if that's what you're choosing to do. Besides, we live in a vast world of media. See tvtropes.org. Wow, that's weird. If you don't believe us. One word of advice, though. That is a strange way to say that. One word of advice, though. Don't try to invent too much up front. As you'll see over the course of the chapter, you're going to be generating a lot of ideas just through the process of game and character creation, so the details will come in time. That's that whole first little section there. So it's already telling me that I do what I want to do with my game, right? Now, enemies, I would assume, are things that I then have to worry about and establish myself. Now, I understand that it's, I guess, for a new player, a little less guiding, right? But I'm kind of refreshed a little bit reading that and going, you probably know what you're doing if you're going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. But that's entirely beside the point. I suppose if I want to be generous to your statement, sir, I've forgotten your name. If I want to be generous to your statement, yes, it doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how enemy be, and exactly how I'm supposed to create them and all of that, I guess, or establish them, or anything really about them. Okay. I guess that's not great, but I also kind of understand, at least from reading that I have the freedom to make the enemies whatever I want, right? And it's more you're saying that D&D expects you to understand what kobolds and liches and dragons are, and like all of that, whereas I guess I would say Encounter Fate expects you to understand what all of those things are and more, just so that you can run them. In a way, it's just like you understand the setting if you're creating it, and if not, there are many references that you can find. Now, is it a direct counter or anything? No. I'm just saying it's the same thing that you're saying, though with the DMG and the player's handbook, they don't necessarily tell you exactly like what an enemy, I guess, like how you identify and set an enemy, I guess. Although this, I guess it does in a certain respect. The monster manual is where you would get that information, which is another book that you would have to get. And Fate Core would be the same way, where with these settings, these Fate worlds, they would probably give you more information in that respect about those kinds of, like, what you would encounter there, or what you could put here as an enemy, and, like, how it works. Especially with, like, organizations and such, and with everything that would involve something like that. So, I guess my point overall is just, Fate doesn't do it well. Okay. But is it really that bad? I don't think so. I think that it would be helpful if it had more of a example. It might even have in the little blurbs of, like, this is an example of Amanda likes this guy and girl with sword. Like, that's what this one says. Talking about scale, it's right underneath it, so oh, here you go. The group thinks about the sort of problem. This is on page 23. The group thinks about what the sort of problems they want to deal with in the world. Ryan immediately says organized crime, and they flesh that out a little. They come up with the idea of the Scar Triad, a group of thugs who are known for thievery, extortion, and other nasty things that the world could do without. This is clearly a current issue. Lily wants the story to also be about something on the verge of happening, something really bad, capitalized. They come up with an impending issue, a vile cult that seeks to summon something horrible into the world, which means they're also saying that their setting includes horrible Lovecraft-inspired things. Lenny calls it the doom that is to come, and Ryan really likes this idea because it gives his bookish character a hook into things going on in the world. And that's what I understand about Fate, is that it's less about what you as the DM, GM, whatever you want to call it, are making, and more about what everybody wants in the game and what you can create together. And it's more of a group storytelling kind of thing, that to the highest degree of, like, the DM doesn't have to go and worry about writing everything that they need to write before. You can kind of improvise a lot, because it really does feel that way, at least to me, though I might be off.
No, you're definitely right.
Yeah, so I think Fate, for what it wants to be, I think it does fine, because even with just this one little blurb, I understand what we're doing, right? We as a group then go, what do we want? Okay, let's figure it out. And then we figure out what we're going to be facing, and then I guess the GM or even the entire group can figure out specifics, right? People that are part of this organization or whatever. But again, is it bad that they don't have specifics? I wouldn't say objectively. I would say preferably I would like some specifics. But that's a preference. And the way that the system works, I think that it lends itself to more of that improvisation, as I said before. So, making the claim of D&D can establish these things, or D&D assumes that you know these things, and thus you can do it. You can play a game with these kinds of elements, which I don't even know why. Potentially somebody's never played before and they have to read it and then they wouldn't know. Like, I guess in modern day we can kind of go like, most people know what fantasy is, but also, okay, like, that's an outside kind of element. I'm having a tough time.
I don't even know what you're going on about.
Because overall what he's saying is that, and I guess let's play it again, because
them how to play D&D under those assumptions. Fate taught to run a game is to use the Dnd Starter Kit. Everything in that kit leans into an assumed understanding of a typical fantasy world. The kit trusts that a new DM has a working knowledge that dragons, necromancers, and goblins are all bad news, and proceeds to teach them how to play D&D under those assumptions.
Couldn't you make the argument that Fate also does
Yeah,
that?
Fate, yeah, why?
That's what I'm trying to say. Fate also just does that.
Yeah, what? Hold on.
Yeah, that's my point. I'm sorry. I must have meandered too much to really get there.
Yeah, you took 5 minutes to say a point that could be said in a sentence.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out how to word it, I guess, and I just didn't do it properly. So I was going through everything that was in the book as well.
Why would you make the claim that Fate doesn't do that? Well, sorry, you're not directly making the claim that Fate does not do that.
Now remember,
however, though, when you provide two examples and you say, "Oh, well, this example does this," that then implies to the listener that the other example does not.
And the reason why I wanted to hold you up because after this point he says that Fate doesn't do this well. It's in fact horrible at it. That's what he says. I want to play it really quick.
Fate Core completely fails at this.
Completely fails at this.
So it's alright when one brand assumes that their reader has knowledge already and one brand does not?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm trying to get across here is like
further.
That's why I read that whole thing out, because it's like it's assuming that you know what these things are.
Furthermore, there is a lot, substantially more, in fact, subject matter in a Fate game than there is in a D&D game. Yeah. So in a D&D game, typically, you are most often doing high fantasy.
Yes.
And the subject of goblins and necromancers and dragons are quite likely to come up. However, as we have established by going through various modules
there are also
for Fate, there is fantasy, yes, but there's a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah.
So it should be more like all right. Imagine for a second with me, you are you freshly bought a game of Fate, and you're reading through it, and you're flipping through it, and you're like, wow, blasters do this, and then you hear, yeah, goblins are punks, and you're like, oh, is this a fantasy game? And then it goes right back into sci-fi. Like, you know what? I'm playing Prey right now. Right. I will tell you fully, goblins and dragons and stuff are mentioned, but that's because there are some crew members who are playing D&D.
Right, exactly.
And literally, that's just a little, very niche little story that you can easily miss out on.
Yes.
If you're not like exploring fully and checking stuff out.
You do, well, I guess, yeah. It kind of is thrown in your way, I think.
Yeah, shut up, you can miss it. However, there is nowhere in the options for this game, there is nowhere in the tutorials for this game
Yep.
where it says goblins are fuckers.
Right.
As a matter of fact, having gone through this game multiple times, I've never encountered a goblin.
What do you mean? That's crazy. I guess my thing would be Fate, like, and I agree with you, but that is in terms of one of the Fate Worlds books, which is technically not the core, right? In the core one itself, it doesn't really tell you about those enemies specifically, right? It doesn't, but it assumes that you know about them, you know about settings, about movies, about books, all those kinds of things, because that's what you're doing with Fate. So really, it's assuming a lot more of you, and having you run with it. So why is that different? Because it encompasses the same thing that you're talking about, just in general. It's not completely shit at it, because it is, I guess, if we want to say that it's shit at it because it doesn't tell you anything, then oh no, I guess the the way that Fate works, it doesn't need you to specifically define how these things work. They each work however the fuck your kind of group wants them to. It's just kind of how the game plays out, you know? And so it's one of those things where you're comparing an experience that's completely different from a different experience.
Yeah, no,
That's my main kind of issue so far. It's like, Fate does this horribly. It's like, Fate doesn't try to do this in the way that D&D does.
you know, the case could be made that Fate treats its players with a lot more respect and to be knowledgeable about stuff.
That's what I was saying before too. I felt it kind of refreshing for it to go, you probably know, and if you don't, tvtropes.org, which I was weird, but you know. But regardless,
okay, can we continue?
yeah, well, let me just read some of the chat because I neglected them. Powered by the Apocalypse. Oh, gotcha. PBTA. Gotcha. In 2013, this game was loved. In 2022, it's forgotten. Yeah, and in 2021, it was the same case. I'm pretty sure. Of course, if you never die, you're eventually going to end up stuck inside the sun. That's true. What is meant by specifics? I'm not sure what you're referring to before. I've left you waiting for too long. I'm sorry. Is it me, or is his main criticism actually about how Fate Core is bad because it has no default game setting? So it's bad because it expects the players to come up with the setting they play in? I don't even know if he's trying to argue that it's bad. He's just saying that, well, he is in a way, but I also think that he's just trying to tell you why people wouldn't like it. I'm trying with the best faith I can do, because otherwise it's just like, I don't know why he's bringing these things up. Because again, it's hard to compare them. He's trying to trick us into playing Fate. Maybe. Trixie Hobbits is. That's right. Lux, I'm not sure it's working. Oh, no. Well, to be fair, this is the thing. I would do it out of spite of this man. At this point. Because he's making it sound like, you wouldn't like it. You play D&D. And I'm like, what do you mean? That's weird. Can't trust those Trixie Hobbitses. That's right. Anyway.
Unlike GURPS, which gave players separate books about monsters, dragons, and spellcasting, Fate Core only provides extremely niche, esoteric supplements. From pop-singing cyber DJs to high school fantasy melodrama.
So no, I'm sorry, are you forgetting the ones about demon summoning and magic? Are you forgetting about the sci-fi elements?
are you now reversing on your point of crunch is bad because you're like, yeah, they gave individual modules that you would have to buy,
Yeah.
and you would have to like buy like 7 books to get a full understanding of the system.
Well, this is, yeah, it's, if you want these specific things, sure, but the problem for your argument here is that Fate doesn't need specific systems in order for magic to work. Or for any of these other kinds of things to work. The combat itself, it's quite literally all about the stunts. And the stunts are very simplistic. You roll for the stunt, do you succeed or not? And that means their stunt could be magic.
I figured going into this video that he would be saying like cool things and maybe like uh a couple downsides to Fate. Like, hey, this is why people hate it, but it's the best RPG that
Yeah.
because like this, and instead it's just him going Fate bad.
Right.
No, I won't say why.
Right. And I think that's because he's trying to
Or
do a
no,
reverse
sorry.
psychology, like, legitimately now.
He does say why the system is bad, but he's fucking wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, the second video that I have is literally why you should play Fate. So I'm expecting that one to at least be better at telling me why I should play it. But who knows at this point? I don't understand titles anymore. This is crazy to me.
Even alternative history Cold War prisons, there's a lot of weirdness there. This isn't to say these game worlds.
Can I? Strixhaven exists for D&D. A lot of weirdness there. Fucking Tasha's Cauldron. A lot of weirdness there. Like, what do you... Specific, these are niches themselves. Yes, they have the overarching theme of the same magic system, I guess. But regardless, like, the characters and stuff and the locations and everything like that, that's all fucking weird and specific. What are you trying to do? Rather play Fate than D&D. That's fair enough. That's totally reasonable.
Supplements and their corresponding mechanics aren't interesting. They are, but a just initiated Fate game master coming from D&D who's looking for a comfortable place to start is utterly abandoned. There is no easy starting place.
Okay, now we finally get to who you're talking about. You're talking about brand new people. Thank you. It's 6 minutes and 45 seconds into the video, but you were not specific before. Okay, Fate is hard to learn for people that have never played anything besides D&D or in general have never played TTRPGs. Okay. Why is that bad?
I like to gatekeep TTRPGs.
Again, I don't think that's his goal, but man, is it hard to fucking tell. Fate versus noobs.
One of the most common complaints D&D players will share when first introduced to Fate Core is, I don't know what my character can do. The book's answer to this statement is accurate, but unhelpful. You can do anything you want. Much like how some anime nerds may explain the details of a Shinto ritual with no deep cultural understanding of why each aspect of that ritual is important, the rules of Fate Core poorly explain its deeply nuanced mechanics. Turn here.
That is a very specific example.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of understand it, so sure.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and honestly, when I first read Fate, and probably upon further readings, it would be one of those cases of, it tells me I can do anything. Like, I get that now, but at the beginning, it would probably be overwhelming. Okay. That's fair enough. You know what? Neat. You did it.
here, bow there,
individual basis.
roll dice over here, and make aspects over there.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Bring that back. Whoa, 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 whoa. I want to hear your explanation of what you do, because it explains how you do these things.
Explain its deeply nuanced mechanics. Turn here, bow there, roll dice over here, and make aspects over there.
Okay, so if you don't read it, you won't know how to play it. But if I read the aspects thing, it even brings me, like, even the little tiny thing here, it tells me to go to page 56. And then I can read about them more. And then even in before that, it tells me how the dice work. And then I guess, like, that's just, could we not say the same thing about D&D? In the beginning, for a brand new person, they look at the book and they go, how the fuck? Because it tells you about all these things that you don't know yet, and you have to, like, read about them and understand and maybe even use them in order to, like, get to know the system. Is that not...
Dude, I don't know, man. I have no thoughts on this. I'm just kind of ready to just continue because
Okay.
I am desperate to not have this I'm desperate to not have this video confront me anymore.
Fair enough. Specifically brand new Fate GMs that have only DM'd D&D before. I'm not sure those humans exist. No, they exist. That's a thing.
But why does one bow? Or why does one make aspects? The rules are lacking in this explanation. These aspects are what drive both the game's narrative and the game's mechanics. Without the use of aspects, a character fails to build mechanical advantage and thematic tone.
I want to interject that on page 57, it starts telling you about types of aspects, situation aspects, what they do. On page 59, it literally says what aspects do, their importance. Like, I guess if you don't read, okay. Aspects do cause a lot of new players a lot of difficulty. This is common. Okay, fair enough then, I guess, but I would imagine that reading them would tell you how they work a bit more.
What the rules poorly explain is that the narrative is used as a tool to grant mechanical benefit to the characters. Additionally, these new players generally miss the fact that they should create aspects too, not just the game master. Human fighters coming from D&D are spoiled by just mindless...
What was that? What was that flash? No, I saw you do that. What was that?
Not just the game master. Human fighters coming from...
Let's slow it down.
What, Flash?
Yeah, he flashed text on the screen for like a half a second. I need to see what it is.
D&D or...
Oh,
fuck. Sorry, I need to know what he's
yeah,
fucking doing.
yeah.
I don't want slimy shit.
D&D or...
Ah! Damn it.
Int is their dump stat. Fear.
Okay, what are you on about now?
Spoiled by just mindlessly rolling to hit in combat. But that same human fighter in a game of Fate Core, combating an evil wizard in his library, will likely die a quick death. Instead, this brute will need to create and use aspects that build narrative toward their own mechanical success. The bookshelves in the library...
So you're just gonna
They're actively encouraged to make aspects though, like
quite literally as a part of your character creation.
When I made Jedediah, I made 3 aspects for him. He always knows where the nearest turnip farm is.
That's right. I remember you talking about that. Yeah. I like sure, it's a little bit different to understand, and you need to, read it to and create these kinds of aspects. Slow mo time my brain. I'm sorry. But what? So
Sorry. Hi, the high concept, humble space beat farmer looking for his son.
that's right.
Stunts. I know a guy, always knows where the nearest farm planet is. Beat the competition, always
right.
seems to have beats on him and will use them to solve various issues. And as storms are coming, has a knack for identifying incoming weather.
Yeah. The aspects. It literally says what?
Uh, in his troubles, I have like Jeremiah, and his harlot daughter Jemima Jeremiah.
That's right. I remember
And delivered beats to soldiers on the front lines of the space wars.
that. We're gonna use those aspects and connections generate problems your PCs are going to solve. Your aspects are the reason why your PC stands out from every other character. Lots of Fate characters have the high fight skill, but only Landon is a discipline of the Ivory Shroud. When his path as a discipline comes into play, or the Ivory Shroud takes action, it gives the game a personal touch that it wouldn't have had otherwise. It's literally just specifics to what your character can do, I guess. How we can kind of simplify it. Yeah, significant personality traits or beliefs, sucker for a pretty face, never leave a man behind, the only good Syntavian is a dead Syntavian. There you go. Background or profession. Like, these things, yeah, you can invoke or call for a compel on any of your character aspects whenever they're relevant. You can always propose compels as a GM to any PC. Players, this is on page 57, sorry. Players, you can suggest compels for other people's characters, but the GM is always going to get the final say on whether or not it's a valid suggestion. And I believe invoking these aspects makes it so you get some sort of advantage. Yeah. You create an advantage or some, like, it helps you mechanically in order to complete whatever you're doing. So what? I suppose it's a little hard to understand, but I guess it would take time and experience to understand how it works, just like every TTRPG. But sure, let's pick on fighters.
Knock them over and create a books piled everywhere aspect. Further invoke that aspect to trap the wizard under that book pile. Simply attacking the wizard outright will
sorry, he's not explaining them either. You can have aspects for the scene, like the environment, and then you can invoke those aspects to also give you an advantage. So quite literally, when he said that books pile thing, then it would give you that aspect that you can then invoke to perhaps make it easier.
What a fun way to actually describe the scene and how the mechanics of the game work.
Yes.
Thank you, Alejo. I'm so glad you didn't use a very ancillary and quick descriptor of an example to cudgel an entire TTRPG.
It's almost like I have this thing open and I'm reading from it so I can understand what the fuck he's talking about, because he's not letting me. He's not making it so that I can. Like, it's fucking... And I want other people to understand who don't know. It's just... I want to die. Alright.
Surely lead to the character's demise. Therefore, this is the thesis statement of Fate Core. The less potent the character's narrative, the less likely the character is to succeed. but this thesis is never
Is
verbosely
that
explained.
What the fuck? What, like,
is
what am I
that
supposed to gain
is
from
that
it?
is that stated? Because also all you put on screen was the less.
Yeah. What the fuck what the fuck do you mean? I suppose if I don't have a lot of aspects, then I'm gonna succeed less. Okay? If that's what you mean, then say that. Because otherwise I don't know what you're fucking going for here. You're just saying if your character sucks, then your character's gonna suck. I'm like, great. Thank you. Use the terminology in a way that I'm going to understand what you're talking about if I'm a person who knows the game, and something that can actually be explained to me if I'm a person who doesn't. You're not doing a good job. I have to look at the book to understand what you're saying. I shouldn't have to look outside to understand this from your fucking video that you're trying to explain these things to me. And you're telling me that the book does a bad job. The book is doing a fucking better job than you.
No.
Dying is hazardous to your health. No, I don't understand what you mean.
in a way that new players can understand it. So, Evil Hat. Fate Core could be a lot more accessible. For an organization that seems to pride itself on its accessibility-based branding, Fate Core's rules do very little to initiate new players. How do we use magic? How do we fight dragons? How do we get lost in the dungeons of your game system? Show us why we don't need hit points, levels, and classes to tell a good story. Your game is one of the best RPGs on the market, but if D&D players who are looking for something different never understand Fate Core's mechanics, they'll never play it. Thanks for watching, Dungeon Masters.
Yeah.
And until next time...
No shit.
You
How
can try.
useless.
You can try to, I don't know, fucking
How-
describe the mechanics. Alright, you know what, I'm done.
How
I'm done.
How fucking useless of a last fucking thing to say. Yeah, if I don't understand something, I'm not gonna do it. Great. Good. Awesome.
That is as in-depth as people die if they're killed.
Yes, exactly. That's the same as... That was the whole... Oh my god. Alright. Fucking useless. Absolutely fucking useless. I can't. I don't understand. What the fuck? Okay. That's that video. There's another 4 seconds, but no, we're good. I'm pretty sure he's not going to say anything else that's useful.
Pretty sure we could have drawn this line at 4 minutes.
Yeah, Anyway. Hi everybody, it's the midpoint. We have one other video to cover, but I don't think it's going to be as long. I really don't. If it's somebody who's literally trying to tell me why I should play it, I'm probably just going to say, oh, that's cool, right? Like, that's the hope. But regardless, this is the midpoint. It's time for those shouting outs and shilling.
Unfortunately, I will have to dip early.
No worries, dude.
But I will stick around for the shoutouts and the shill talk.
Okay, alright. Well, apparently you can't kill a wizard by stabbing him, I guess. You have to knock his books down on him. Yeah, that's the thing.
What if I have an aspect that I simply named fucking nerd?
Right, absolutely. You could! That's the thing. Like,
what if I want to grab that nerdy, pasty little wizard and stick him in a headlock like Boris did?
That's right. Like, legitimately, I think his point there is if you don't use aspects for your character, if you don't understand how those work, you're going to have a bad time. And I'm like, yeah, great, good, thank you.
Obviously.
If I don't know how the system works, I'm not going to understand how the system works. Very cool.
Yeah, if you don't use a core mechanic of the game, you're going to not be able to use the core mechanics of the game.
Exactly. As always, if we got something wrong, if we are not understanding something here, please do say so later on in a comment or in the chat. But for now, it seems like everybody in the chat has kind of been on our train of thought of what the fuck is happening. Again, if you can explain it in a way that seems like what he's saying, I guess let me know, because he's not saying these things in a way that is helpful, like, at all. And also, this isn't why people hate. Nope. This doesn't tell me anything about people hating it. You, again, literally just like the fucking last time, just clickbait that I was like, oh, and then you gave me garbage. You shoveled that shit into my mouth and into my eyes, and now I'm infected.
and your ears.
And my ears, exactly. Yes, I'm overflowing with garbage, and I hate it. Anyway, so that being said, thank you to our lovely patrons. Hey, did you know we have a Patreon? In fact, the patrons have helped get us to the point where we are having dice coming in July at some point to be done and then shipped to us, and then shipped out to them, as well as those who buy them later. Wow! Thank you, patrons. You've made it so that actually custom dice can be made, and it's going to be sick as hell to have custom dice that are literally representations of the show. Like, that's something that is going to be like a physical thing that's immortalized, kind of.
In case the dice weren't in case watching me have anxiety live on stream wasn't a compelling enough reason to get money, you also get dice.
That's right. But yeah, so we've talked about it before, but the Dice Fund has been a thing for a little while now, and we're there, and I will post the screenshot of the email saying it'll come in July. For everybody to see, with things crossed out so you don't see personal information, of course. But regardless, that is by and large due to donations and patron donations. So thank you to everybody who has done so, and all of you who have been watching. And so we will thank those specifically who have joined the Patreon and continue to support us day after day after day after day in that respect. Like, fucking crazy, awesome people. Stop it. You're insane. That, of course, is from the top. Draco Kraken at tier 4. Thank you. Mog0, also at tier 4. Thank you as well. Rick, aka Unit Rico, at tier 4. Thank you. Slazer at tier 4. Thank you. Steely at tier 4. Thank you so much. Drake Cross at tier 3. Thank you as well. Chris at tier 2. Thank you so much. Frozen Spaghetti at tier 2. Thank you as well. Kill Chrono at tier 2. Thank you. And last but not least, of course, Reptile Commander Lux at tier 2. Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you to you all. Yes. If you would like to join the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/TableTalkDND. All one word. Table Talk is capitalized, and the D and the D are capitalized. But I don't think that matters if you're searching for us. I don't know. But regardless, there is also a link in the description that you can go and follow. Other than that, of course, you can support us by getting something through TeePublic with the Table Talk logo on it. The one that will be on your lovely dice, except these will have the black stripe between the two things, and the others, the dice will actually all be one color for the etchings. So it's just how it works. It's unfortunate, but it is how it works. So you can just take a Sharpie and, you know. But regardless, going on TeePublic, I actually forgot and have recently looked at my shirts, and I do have a couple from TeePublic. They're not these shirts because I don't support my own things. But I do have a couple of TeePublic shirts, and they've lasted me quite a while now. There's some Godzilla shirts, and they're sick as hell. And they're really good.
I have one shirt from TeePublic, and it was back when friend of the show Brogan, known at Ones,
Right.
first got his name and
Mm,
his little symbol, and I wanted to support his channel, so I bought a shirt.
hell yeah. And yeah,
And I wore it literally last podcast.
hell yeah. Nice. But yeah, so I that's the seal of quality from the shirts, at least from what we have gotten. They last pretty well and they're pretty cool. So if you want to help support, a percentage of it does go towards the artist who created our new logo and who will go on to create probably a lot more art for us. Um, but yeah, you can get it on t-shirts and other things, of course. TeePublic doesn't only have t-shirts, but t-shirts are pretty cool.
All
Other
right, I suppose.
other than that, the other way you can support us is by going over to Humble Bundle. Using our link in the description, you can go on there and whatever you purchase when you've clicked the link, you can support us with like a few pennies and stuff, and also support Tabletop Alliance, a charity that uses tabletop games as well as TTRPGs to help with communities and the community outreach and all that shit. Link in the description as well, for you to go and learn more about them if you want to. But otherwise, I would say, hey, I'll shill for this pretty hard right now. The fucking monthly choice thing that they do, I've been subscribed to it for a long time now, and
Literally since before I've known you.
yeah, yeah. And I love Humble, and I love the choices that you get. And right now they have on here, you get Command and Conquer. This is on Origin. I will let you know. The Command and Conquer key goes to an Origin account, whilst the Planet Zoo and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated and the other games that are on there all go towards Steam. So if that's if you're not a fan of Origin or whatever. But you have 8 choices that you can choose from, and I don't know exactly how many you get from getting the thing right now. I get 8 because I've been a member for so long, but I don't know how that is for people who are new who sign up. But regardless, the Planet Zoo is a great game. I love that game. It's the Zoo Tycoon remaster that I've always wanted. Fucking get it. It's so good. It's like $40, like, without being in this $12.99 per month thing. And you just get a bunch of games like that every now and again that are just fucking crazy expensive, quote unquote, right? Like in relation. Regardless, there's like other bundles here that they do. Sometimes they do book bundles that are related to TTRPGs, like the Pathfinder bundle and all of that before. Usually we shout those out on the Discord when those come out for people that might want that stuff. And sometimes they include most of the time they include a physical product along with the ebooks. And I would also say, if you have any interest in listening to some Warhammer 40k stuff, they do have some audiobooks from the Black Library that are in a bundle that only lasts for another day and 14 hours as of recording. So you don't have time unless you want them now.
Yeah. Because I've been meaning to get into Warhammer audiobooks actually for a while.
There you go.
I might take a gander.
Yeah, I got a few out of a different bundle, and they're pretty good. Like it was one of the ones that's like it's part of the Horus Heresy series that they wrote, and the one that I was listening to was Thousand Suns, like before, or it was literally Logar, who was like one of the right hands of Horus during that time. Well, one of the inner circle of Horus during that time, and like their whole journey through and how Horus was starting to like turn a little bit like off the path, and it's really interesting, like seeing it from the Space Marine perspective. It's very cool.
So this is unrelated to shilling completely, but a somewhat funny story. Just in general about the Trader Primarchs.
Okay.
So I have a friend who is addicted to getting stuffed animals.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Half her bed is
Mhm.
covered with stuffed
Yep.
animals. Like
Gotcha.
the entirety of it, like width-wise,
Mhm.
and half the length of the bed.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like it is a problem.
Yep.
And I am the type of person that I feed people's addictions.
Yeah.
So I got, and she loves well, it's the rogue in my campaign.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yep.
She loves dragons.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I bought her a stuffed animal of a dragon once. In like April of last year.
Mhm.
And I named it Horus.
Hey.
And she's like, "Oh my god, it's so cute." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And then a while ago, she loves like these big like squishmallow things, and
Yep.
I found a fucking big boy.
Yep.
And he's a big fat chonky dragon.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? I should name something big. Magnus.
Yeah, there you go. He did nothing.
Dude, I looked so hard for a red dragon.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks ago, I got one of those little reversible, it's like a little octopus.
Yep.
But it's reversible, so one side is like smiling, and the other side's all grumpy. And I shipped her the stuffed animal with the grumpy side facing out, and I was like, "This one's name is Lorgar," because the grumpy one has glasses, and I'm like, and Lorgar is a fucking nerd.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, my goal is just to gradually, like,
subtly,
every now and then I'll pick little trader Primarchs, and I will only tell her after she has the entirety of the trader Primarchs.
Yes. I love this.
I can be like, hey, you know how I got you like some stuffed animals like years ago? Like, this has been a con 2 years in the making.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's great.
I am 100% about the long con.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
And stuffed animals are fucking expensive, dude. This is not a cheap bit. Which makes me love the bit even more because now I'm fucking committed.
Oh yeah, of course.
Every trader Primarch is I drop like $30 for the bit, and I'm looking at how many trader Primarchs they're at, and I'm like, oh boy.
That's great. I fucking love it. That's so good.
But that is the treat I will leave you all with tonight. Before I peace out.
Fair enough, sir.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yes, you as well.
Yes, thank you.
All right, everybody. It is just me now. I apologize. Anyway, I'm just gonna. Oh, there we go. Don't need you seeing the conversations. So. Just once more to reiterate, all the links to everything is in the description. If you want to donate to us directly, you can do so via the chat or on our website, which is also in the description. Don't have to. Again, as always, don't feel like it's an obligation. It's only if you want to support that way. Otherwise, just your views and comments and likes and all of those, and just really, if you just want to watch the thing, it doesn't matter otherwise. That's enough. So, thank you. Anyway, let's move on. We're all infected by stupid now. That's true. Guy may not have been Garibay tier, but there's a little Garibay in each and every one of us. Our Lord does work in mysterious ways. That's right. And time to skip to the present. Oh, welcome. Having any part of Garaby in me hurts, man. Yeah, well. That's how it be. Oh yeah. Well, we'll get to those, but there are a lot of comments and stuff that we gotta go through later on. So it's gonna be a while before we're at the end. But right now, let's move on to the second video. Hopefully a better video. God, please. So this is an argument for why. Oh, there we go. Why you should be playing Fate RPG. This is brought to us by Castle Archon, as I am bringing this stuff up. Oh, that's the settings. Whoops. There we go. This is brought to us by Castle Archon. That is the channel. And if I didn't say it before, I'll say it again. Dungeon Masterpiece was the last video, but I think I said that. It'll be in the description of the VOD when it comes out. So, both of them will be. But anyway, so this is why you should be playing Fate RPG by Castle Archon. Let's see if he has a better video. It's probably categorically such, but who knows? You'd be surprised.
Greetings, everybody. It's Jim, and today we're going to give you reasons why you should be playing the Fate system from Evil Hat Productions. Now, if you know any of my videos at all and just look through the list, you'll notice that I am a big fan of the Fantasy Trip from Steve Jackson Games. Big time. It's save versus poison or die gaming, real gritty. The combat system's beautiful and can be played by itself. However, it can't do everything. It doesn't fit the cinematic role as well as the Fate system does. Okay. And also, there are some people that I would play with that really don't get into like the more tactical aspects of it. They just want to role play. They just want to go from the heart and talk. And the Fate system is perfect for this game. Now, the thing is also about the Fate system that everybody gets involved in creating the story a lot more than normal. Yeah, the game master works with the players in other role-playing games, but here there are checks and balances that really up the ante to that idea, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. So let's look at a little history here. Stefan Sullivan made a role-playing game called Fudge. This is the ancestor of Fate. Okay, and a big shout out and a thank you to Stefan O'Sullivan, because not only did he come up with a revolutionary system that changed the face of role-playing, he also let this out for, did the license so everybody can use it in their own stuff. And
so far, again, I don't know how much I'm going to have to comment on things against this, because I assume this is going to be a pitch, right? But overall, Fate does really feel like it's more narrative focused. That's just true. It's less about experience, quote unquote, and levels and all of that, obviously, because that's not in the system. It is more of a narrative, as said. But I also do want to say what's interesting about, and I hope the checks and balances stuff is very well explained, because I don't see how there is checks and balances. I see how there is everybody playing together and creating the story together, and that's, like, again, integral to it. It literally gives that as examples of this is how you do it. To be fair as well, you could do this in any other TTRPG system. You could have your session 0 be, let's figure out how we want this game to work. Technically, that's how our Wednesday session 0 went, of like, what's the tone we want, what's the kind of world we want, all that kind of stuff. So I guess it's not necessarily unique in that respect of like creation, quote unquote, but it does seem unique in that respect from gameplay of like, in the middle of it, you have the ability to do your aspects and your stunts to create parts of the scene for the scene aspects that you can invoke and all of that kind of stuff, as well as the fate points, which we've talked about before, which I'm less of a fan of just because they feel weird, but maybe it wouldn't feel as weird playing the system, because again, we haven't necessarily played it before.
Of course, Evil Hat did that to tremendous effect with the fate system. So what is it? What is so great about the fate system? Well, basically, let's just go over the dice real quick. These are the famous fate dice that you've heard so much about. Now, what they are is they're 6-sided dice, 2 pluses, 2 minuses, and 2 blank spots in the middle. And when you roll them, you get this little bell curve of of die rolls, like you can see here. 2 minuses and 2 pluses, it equals out as a wash. It's a 0. 2 pluses and a minus, you get the idea. And of course, it's a bell curve, so getting all zeros or getting all minuses or getting all pluses, that kind of Yahtzee kind of thing, doesn't happen too often. So you got that range of your average rolls will be anywhere from plus 1, +2, -1, -2 kind of thing. So what do you use those for? Well, you use those, like here's the ladder right here, and basically you use those to add your skills, add to your roll. Okay, so if you're good at something, you're going to get a +3 to your roll. If you're average, you're going to get a +1. You can see by the chart there. Now, the nice thing about the chart, that it easily identifies how good a character is at something. And yes, those descriptive words do matter. Because unlike Dungeons & Dragons, where the stats are really close by, every +1 really doesn't mean anything. It's the illusion that characters are different. Here...
okay, let's be careful with that. A +1 does mean something mathematically. It is mathematically an advantage because the system uses those numbers very often. But regardless, just be careful, sir. It's not an illusion. A +1 is not an illusion. It's less valuable. Excuse me. It's less valuable than a +2 or more, sure, but I wouldn't call it an illusion. Sometimes it can make a break.
Close by, every +1 really doesn't mean anything. It's the illusion that characters are different. Here, you can see just by the words that every +1 means it's pretty much exponentially better than the one before. That's how it works out to me anyway. So basically, a person that is good is going to beat a person that's fair more often than not. While, again, a contest of strength or whatever in Dungeons & Dragons, it's a turkey shootout on a +1. So this gives you a great idea. Let's look at the character sheet real quick.
Okay, I guess if you want to be broad about it, yes, it's more about the role itself plus the stats, but wouldn't you say that that's the same way that Fate is kind of? Like, if I have a good and another person has a good, then if we roll it off, it's more down to that +1 that, like, if we both get +1, we're at the stalemate. If one of us gets a +1, we're still going to be... Like, that's how Dungeons & Dragons works most of the time, too. And most of the time, it's even meet or beat, where you just... That +1 could get you to where you need to be. It's different. And it does things differently. We don't have to take digs at a +1. Yes, it means more in this, but that's because the system is different.
Now here's a Fate Core character sheet. Let's look at the skills. And when you create your character, depending on the power campaign of the campaign, you create it by a skill pyramid. So in other words, you're going to be great at 1 skill. You're going to get 2 skills that you're good at, 3 skills you're fair at, and 4 skills that you're just average at for flavor text. And that's how that works. Now, of course, if you wanted a lower powered campaign, you could be good at something, 2 things at fair, 3 things at average. It all is up to you, your game master. So let's talk about aspects right now, and that's to the left of skills right there. High concept, trouble, other aspects. This is the part of the ebb and flow between the game master and the players, okay, that I like. What an aspect is, it is a broad sense of what's happening with the character. For instance, a trouble aspect might be, I have a debt to the mob, or I'm a family man, or in a one-shot campaign, I need to return these books to the library, before closing or something like that. So what happens with these aspects, every character has a number of fate points, anywhere from 2 to 6, and they get some coins or some markers, or they can just do pen and paper, it doesn't matter. But when they feel like their aspect can help in the situation, be part of the situation, they can do what's called invoking of an aspect. Okay, so they slide a fate point to the game master and say, hey, I want to use this aspect, and they can... 2 things happen. 1, if there's a die roll involved, they can add a flat +2 to it, which allows them to do something cool at pivotal moments. Or they could just ask the game master, can this happen? For instance,
okay. See, now I understand it a little bit more. Thank you, sir. Okay. So fate points, from hearing about them a while ago and my vague memory of reading the book at one point. Again, this is all unfortunately my fault in this respect, from not remembering / doing my research, but fate points sounded way more powerful than they did before. Okay. So when you invoke, you can use the fate point, and that's when you can say, can something happen? And it has to relate to your aspect. Now that's much better. I am much more a fan of that and using that kind of thing, because then it depends on the context of the situation, and it makes it so that it doesn't become unreasonable when you can ask for things. It makes it so that it has its guidelines already built in through the aspects, and again, the situations, because of those aspects. That's 100% that makes me feel better about fate points then. Because I would imagine anything very small would be something that I would be like, oh yeah, you can absolutely make that happen. You know, it goes to a degree of like, maybe this will be a roll more so. But that +2 can help with that, and it could even be something that is not a skill that you have, right? But you get that +2 because of your aspect, right? Much more understandable. Man, people who actually know things telling me things that I need to understand are, and actually seem to be knowledgeable about it, is just nice. It's just a nice thing. All the little +1s pile up. Yes, that's true. In D&D, it's just, yeah, it's not inconsequential. It's just a weird thing to say that that's an illusion. Just be careful with that word. But anyway, so ultimately I think it's a failing on my part for my understanding of how fate points work, and I kind of figured that was the case anyway. But in the game it would have made more sense. But having it explained to me this way, it broadens my mind. My brain is now more wrinkled, and I'm happy about that.
my character doesn't want to go with these other characters for whatever reason. And I say, you know what? I'm a family man. I can't go with you guys. And family man's my aspect. I can't go with you guys. I'm a family man. I promised Jessica I'd help her with her homework tonight. And I slide a fake coin over to the game master. Now he can veto it, but for the most part, he's going to take it and say, cool, no problem. And now you get to say what happened in the story there, and you get to come up with it. And just in reverse, the game master can do that in reverse, called a compel, and I can compel a character. So, okay, I don't want your character to go with this group, so I'm going to compel you because you're a family man. You said you need to help Jessica with her homework tonight, so you can't go with them, but here's a fate point for your trouble. So it ends up being a nice economical system. The players get to have some say in the story. The game master has some economical control and help to make sure that everybody, when he does something to them, they get to do something back cool in return.
Yeah, okay. That I kind of understood with at least compelling from before. I forgot it, but to be totally frank with you, I completely forgot that's how that works with the compelling. But now that he's saying it, it does ring some bells. And I guess I'm an idiot for not realizing that's kind of the part of how the fate points work for the characters too. But yeah, there was another point that I was gonna make, but now it's lost my brain. It was wrinkly and now it is smooth again. Fuck. If I think about it again, I'll let you know.
So not only does he not have to be the only guy.
Oh, that was it. Sorry. I can see some aspects becoming slightly problematic in that respect if you want to keep a party together. Now, I don't think that it's a bad idea to split the party. In fact, none of us do. But it can be problematic, right? And in some ways, I guess this becomes more of a question of, does your DM, GM, whatever, veto it and like, I feel like it's fine if your GM vetoes it and says, at this point in time, I think it would be a little bit more difficult to run the story without you there. Though I can also see them going, okay, we'll figure out what you're doing in a second. Let's just go with these guys, right? Just like in any situation where you can have a split in your party. Obviously, it's more up to the characters and the DM in this respect, working together to kind of get them to come back together. And I assume that will be the goal entirely once you do the split, because everybody doing their own thing for too long is probably not something you want to have happen in your games. And I'm not trying to bring this up as a flaw. I can just see this happening, and I'm presenting ways to kind of deal with it that make sense to me with the system, and especially with the fate points where you're giving them and you're taking them. I guess my question now would be, is there a limit to the amount of fate points that each side has? And I don't know if he'll talk about it, and if not, I might look into it in the book really quick. So we'll see if he says so. Because if there is a strict economy of like there is this amount in a session, then that's interesting. We'll see, I guess.
To try to help reward this player, but now the player can actually do their part. That, you know, two heads are better than one, to help out of what happens with that character cool later on.
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing. Now, I know I'm going to sound like that guy that does the Hero Quest video. You know, the best thing about Hero Quest, you know, because I'm about to talk about another thing I love is the character creation. Let's go back to the character sheet here.
No limit to fate points? Okay. Huh. All right. I assume, well, there's no hard limit, but there's probably an amount that you start with as a character. That's probably in the book, so that's not something we have to worry about too much, I think. And if there's not a limit, then that's weird, but you can do whatever you want. You can impose one if you need to.
As you know, there was a pyramid. You get 1 at good, 2 at fair, 3 skills at average. Well, to make your character, what you do is you have a little bit of a backstory. You think of one pivotal moment in their life that changed their character's life. Okay, and you write about it. And you write down 3 skills that you learned along the way, and you start them at average.
Right. And
then you also say what other character in the party, how you met them during that time. So that's beautiful. And then you don't go too far with it. You just say a little bit. So I learned how to use a broadsword at the guild, and Tomko the barbarian learned it with me. And that's just something simple. Now you don't go.
Okay. Well, I'll let him finish.
Too far in depth, because now you're going to do it again. You fast forward maybe a year or two, and you think of some other pivotal moment. And you do it again with another character, and you either come up with new skills or you raise the ones that you've had before along the lines of the story.
I must have forgotten this too. That's a great way to make it so that your party is believably together, and the fact that they know each other and all that kind of stuff. It makes it so that you don't have to worry about the introduction kind of period. Perhaps it's I guess, do you do this with everybody in the party so that you, or quote-unquote party, right, group, I guess is a better term, because I don't know if there's a term that they use in the book right now. But it helps with that kind of, less of that puppy dog party, like we've talked about before.
And then you do it again, and you keep doing it until you make your character sheet filled out. And it's beautiful. By the time you're done, not only do you have connections with every other character in the game, you don't have to have all of them. But I mean, not only do you have that, you have reasons for your skills. Okay, you just don't say, I'm good with the broadsword. Now you have a backstory to your skills.
I would hope that you would at least think about that a little bit when you're making a character in whatever TTRPG, but this does give you a mechanical reason to do it, which also adds to the narrative reason, which is, I think, just overall a good choice.
That's beautiful. I have never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, right there alone, as much as I like the dicey system, as much as I like the aspects, that alone is just beautiful of why I would pick this book up in a second.
Sure.
I mean, what other gems of knowledge are in these 300 pages, right? Now, another thing that I really like about Fate is its generic nature, okay? And basically, they've got 2 toolkits out there right now. They have horror and space. Now, right out of the book, you could just play anything you want. It's just...
When was this video? Now I need to know this. Horror and space were the original 2 at this point, which was 2020. Interesting. I wonder what you mean then. Are there ones that are I guess like specifically like core ones for those kinds of settings instead of the world books? I don't actually know.
So those toolkits help you along. Now, of course, they're going to probably come out with fantasy and espionage, superpowers maybe. The list can go on.
Sure.
And they're not the first ones, though, to come out with a generic system. Of course, most people already are aware of GURPS from Steve Jackson Games. Now, this is diametrically opposite of Fate. While Fate is very light to get into and is very cinematic in nature, GURPS setting, or the GURPS rules, is very much based on what if this was real, okay? And that's how it depicts its games, and it grounds everybody. And it's pretty interesting. You can respect it. It's just a very involved game as compared to like Fate. So
you see, this is respect. I like this. Whereas in the previous video, we had just the use of crunchy, which is already one of those negative terms that you see thrown around in the community, right? It's more negative because of the community than it is because of the word. This is a respect on, like, this is also a thing that it is, but it's more involved, right? That's a great way to put it. You have to be more involved with this one, and it's more about your grounding of what if this was real. That's a great way to describe it. I appreciate this. On a side note about the puppy dog party, I don't think I would mind a campaign where characters switch in and out of the party over the course of the story, like in Final Fantasy 4. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't mind the puppy dog thing. You know, it's whatever. Like, on occasion, it's a little like, I wish we could have a bit more of a connection beforehand, to actually make it feel like we're, you know, really connecting and becoming a party of people that actually care about each other. But at the on the other end, I'm like, I understand why we do it, because it's just a little easier at times, and sometimes we don't need to have that big thing. We can have it kind of develop over time more so it can still mean something. It's just we're just together at this point, and fuck it, right? Both ways are fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with a puppy dog party. It's just one of those things of like, I'd like to see the depth beforehand, but it's also just limited on people, I guess, and their creativity. Technically, right? It's not. I'm not saying that you're not creative if you have a puppy dog party. What I'm saying is, it's hard to make that everything work that way sometimes, and it depends on the DM and all the players involved and everything kind of meshing together. And like, a session 0 would really help with this, of like figuring out bonds beforehand, quote unquote, of and by quote unquote I mean for bonds, because I know bonds are a thing in like D&D. But figuring out who your friends are beforehand and all that kind of stuff. We've talked about it before. But anyway.
So that's another reason why I like Fate on that note. Now, I'll take a second to talk about another setting for that you could use with Fate. It's called Harn World. If you need a fantasy setting, and they don't have a fantasy toolkit out there right now, Harn World would be a perfect choice, because it is based on medieval fantasy, historically accurate medieval fantasy.
Oh.
Okay, that you would think that, hey, medieval fantasy's everywhere. You got swords and armor and everything. That's easy. No, these are written by historians and people who might as well be historians. Look, don't take my word for it. There's over 1 million words in print. There's a free link down below to a 60-page sampler of the Kingdom of Kaldor. Go read it, and if you like Game of Thrones intrigue, you're gonna thank me. So go ahead and get that link. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is the 3 different books that you'll see about Fate, and not to confuse you, okay? Now, first off, they're all free. Period. Let's start there.
Okay, good. I was like half like scared that I had somehow pirated a copy, but no, it's free. Okay. No, I must have gotten it off the site because I just don't remember ever going to find it in another way. So, okay.
They are free from Evil Hat. You should download them. The links are down below. You can pay them later. They have a pay what you want idea. So if you appreciate them, you can send a few bucks their way, or you could just do what I did and buy all the books. Either way, I'm sure they'll be happy with that. So, of course, Fate Core System, that's the book that I definitely think you should get. It's 300 pages long, though. So if you still want to just check it out, the condensed version is only 60 pages long and tells you everything you need to know to play. It doesn't talk about all the game mastering stuff later, like campaigns and character advancement and all that such. If you just want to play and test the system out, go ahead and get Fate Condensed. Now,
I had no idea that this was what this was. Okay, you know what? I might actually pick that one up too. I might pick these all up because now I'm much more interested in Fate. Like, this video has already gotten me to the point of like, yeah, Fate is probably something that I actually do want to play. You know, surprisingly enough, my opinion was changed, and that's good. I like this guy a lot more. Me too. It's Jim from what is it? Castle Archon. Cool guy, Jim. Harn is nuts. All I know is they have binders of info for each religion alone. That's crazy. Yeah, I assume when he said historical, like, and historians did work on it, then I'm like, oh fuck. Fate Condensed is light. Okay. Well, it's just one of those things to help you, like, get started. And I assume it gives you exactly what you need to know, right? I would hope, at least.
One that I'm not going to suggest right away. I'm not saying it's not something you should get. I'm just saying check out Fate System with either Fate Core or Fate Condensed. But Fate Accelerated, what this is basically a quicker way to get right into the game for players instead of making backstories or creating, thinking of skills to get. Here's a character creation sheet for Accelerated. Basically, what they do in a nutshell is they replace skills with approaches. So all their skills are you're either careful, clever, flashy, forceful, quick, or sneaky. You get 1 at +3, 2 of these approaches at +2, and all the rest at +1. So this works for things like, let's say you're playing Star Trek, okay? You're the security officer. Obviously, you're going to be the forceful one. That's a +3, whether it be
okay. So each of those are your replacements for your skills. I see what you mean. Okay. Wait, I already understand what you're talking about because you're giving me examples that actually, like, illustrate what the fuck you're saying. That's very nice of you. Thank you. I probably wouldn't want to play this version. This version seems too simple already.
Like in Next Generation. Or Data in the Next Generation would be the clever one. Okay, in the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, the flashy one would be the bard. You get a +3 there. Or the sneaky one would, of course, be the thief. These all work on archetypes, and they are to make characters quick. Okay, look, we're just going to try to start a campaign. We're not going to think too long about it. We're not going to come up with our skills, backstory. I just want you, and we'll see what happens. And then, after you're done playing it, then you can move into core and get a little bit more descriptive if you like how the campaign went. But it's something I would suggest getting, but not until you get the core camp system and figure out if you want the system or not. So that's my video about the Fate system. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next video.
Thanks, Jim. I like that video. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point. And it actually explained things that I needed explained. Fate Condensed is what people assume the Fate system is like when they think Fate is a light game system. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, again, overall, I think that video is good. It actually does wet the palate, you know, and it makes me go, oh, Fate, what's that? That's crazy. Does a good job of explaining some aspects to it and getting you basically what you need to know to start, I would say, or at least begin looking into it a bit more in depth. And honestly, I find it weird that he doesn't recommend getting the simpler version first. I would think that the simpler version would be the gateway, where it would be like, this is how you do Fate, and then you could go into the more complex stuff because then you're ready for more rules potentially with Fate Core. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just maybe it's easier to have learned all those rules first and then get a more simplified version. I don't know, but I would think that it would be the other way around. Cool. Gotta take the dog out, so if you get off soon, then good night. Well, that is probably not gonna happen because I have so many comments to go through because that's that video. And honestly, that leaves me with a better mental state, I guess, than the other one did. But yeah, so let's move on to the final section of tonight, and that is the comments. And I saw that we got another one, so let me just refresh this. So I have, yes, there we go. So I gotta say, John Parker, you're a newer subscriber and stuff, and man, you've been going for it, huh? You've been listening and you've been commenting, and fuck me. Gonna read them all, but man, oh man, thank you, first off. And second off, fucking okay. I appreciate it. Let's see what we got. Anyway, so yeah, time for comments. Like I said, John Parker, been going through, and apparently has been going from the beginning and started commenting at 2. So here we go. First off, on episode 2, Fate of Cthulhu and D&D in the media, John Parker says, I personally love the post-credits D&D skit from the PlayStation 2 game Summoner. Is that the game that's also on Steam? Because I think I own that game and I've never played through it entirely. I've started it like twice, but I never got past like the first area. Also, I just discovered your show with episode 60, and I'll be listening to the show at work, and possibly leaving comments on my journey through the years. I'm looking forward to the Schmandemic arc. Thank you. I hope you enjoy. I support more comments. Yes, Lux, I also do. It's very cool. Next up, in episode 4, grappling in 3.5 is really only viable for player characters versus similar or smaller opponents. Monsters are kings of grapple in 3.5. They get larger size bonuses, they usually have high strength bonuses, and around the same base attack bonus as fighters of their level 2 CR. Many monsters can also automatically start grapples with their attacks and have additional bonuses on their grapples, like swallowing grappled opponents or constricting them for automatic damage. That is true. That is actually very true. This was on episode 4, character how-to videos and copying characters. Man, I don't even remember talking about grappling in that, but I guess we did. So thank you. Again, John Parker, in last episode, made 2 comments. First, Revivify is also a spell in 3.5. It has to be cast in 1 round of death. Combined with Revenants, you can extend that to 1 round per caster level. There are also the immediate action spells Delay Death and Close Wounds. There you go. I completely forgot about it being in there and that those 2 spells existed, so thank you. And then Locate City Bomb is a series of metamagic feats that ultimately end up making a divination spell with a range of miles, deal damage by exploding creatures to the extreme of its radius, and deal 1d6 per 10 foot of distance. Holy fuck. Yeah. 3.5 is a trip. And this one was also on episode 4. Regarding reading the books, I totally sympathize. I have several players that refuse to read the books, and one player/DM that at least reads the headings. But then he just makes everything up, and what he makes up is usually insanely powerful, like giving the sorcerer NPC every spell on the sorcerer/wizard list as known spells. Holy fuck, we play 3.5. Holy fuck, that is way too many spells. God, that sucks. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Holy fuck. And then again, on episode 5, taking a look at Taking 20. The Keen Mind feat would allow, with illusion magic, the ability to maintain perfect recall of events you have seen or heard by replicating them one every 25 or so days with illusions. Hours until sunrise/sunset would, with good knowledge of geography, allow you to pinpoint your latitude on a world with a tilted axis, which is pretty good. I've homebrewed the feats from 3.5 that only grant +2 to 2 skill checks to be something different that has role-playing uses or represents special training with the skills that were being increased. That's cool. And yeah, as stated in the video, in the episode, fucking saying that Keen Mind and is fucking bad and laughing at it was so infuriating and dumb. Cody is a person. Next up on episode 6. Oh, we're just going through the ages, huh? Wow. Okay, this is cool. I'm glad to see somebody just going through. And I mean, 1 or 2 a day, man. You're dedicated. I hope you're enjoying. So this was on player tips and dice rolling. I don't remember the videos that were covered on this actually. Let me actually see what these were. I gotta open it up over here. Sorry. So I want to see what the videos were so I get a memory of what we were talking about. Apologies. If I just go to here and then I put in 7, that should work. Or 6, I mean. Whoops. 6. Oh right, we've done a lot of things. We've done like more than 60 episodes. I forgot. Alright, what did we cover? Tips for new players by WSAT20. We haven't covered him in a long time. We should do that. More tips. Upping the challenge rating by WSAT20. And then ways you may be doing dice wrong. Player character tips by how to be a great GM. Oh my god. Is this where we got cutting off the hands? Was it episode 6? No way. That can't be. Somebody fact check me. Now I'm gonna go through Memory Town. Jesus. For the first video, reading is tech. Also, feel free to ask questions of your DM or the other players at the table. For the second video, please just don't use unreadable dice. They don't help anyone. I own a set of completely clear dice that the numbers have been worn off with time, and the dice are effectively unusable as dice now and were retired. Yeah, fair. On episode 7, at least in 3.5, this was DM tips and skills, cringe and absurdity. Oh, that's right, I remember. Ugh. Cutting the hands was pretty early. Shit. It's sparking the memory, so I'm pretty sure it was that episode. That's insane. At least in 3.5 and possibly earlier editions, there is a caster level check versus spell resistance, which is 1d20 plus caster level versus the target's spell resistance. Isn't that only if they have spell resistance? And I don't remember if most things do, but fair enough, yeah. Next up on episode 8, Horrible House Rules and How to Fix Them. That was a good title. The worst house rule I have played under is Overkill XP. Oh no. Overkill XP is bonus experience points and a currency for extra special homebrew items that is earned by dealing damage past 0 to an enemy. The best house rule I've played with... So you just get more experience if you deal more damage after they're dead. So you could really min-max that. And special homebrew items, so you get special items for dealing a bunch of bonus damage. That's weird. The best house rule I've played with and use in my own 3.5 games is that death occurs at a total number of negative hit points equal to your constitution score instead of at negative 10 hit points. Total number of negative points equal to constitution score. Oh, okay, so like at 18, it would be a negative 18. I see. Sure. Yeah, that's fair enough. Episode 8 again. The more complex called shot armor system involves figuring out the level of armor on that body part. For instance, a kind of armor that doesn't cover your arms fully, but fully protects your legs/torso. A called shot to the arms would be easier than a called shot to the rest of the body. Also, hooray for the start of the Schmandemic arc. Oh man, it was back in episode 8? Fuck me. I do remember us, like, we were starting nearer to the point of it being, like, beginning. Man, that's crazy. We've been doing this for years now. That's crazy. On the overkill thing, sounds like someone played Final Fantasy X. Yeah, there are a lot of other, I played recently, what was it? Let me look at my games list. I forget what it's called. Why do I have worms right there? That's weird. Is it like Dark? What the fuck is it called? No, it's not. Anyway, I was playing another RPG that also did overkill XP, and like it's fair enough in a video game RPG that I'm fine with, but like in D&D, it just makes that gap even bigger, right? That's why I'm not a big fan of XP in general. Because again, the gap gets huge, and some people might fall off, and somebody else is like the guy, and you know, it feels less satisfying to me personally, but I can understand how some people might not mind it. Anyway, Lux, on episode 105, and then, oh, that was the end of John? Oh, man. Well, I'm looking forward to more of your comments, John. Thank you. Regardless, Lux, on last episode, oh, here we go, says, and this was when we were talking about fixing inspiration, death, and spare the dying. When messing around with Spare the Dying, we should keep in mind that if you bump it up to a first level spell, it will be in competition with Cure Wounds. True. If a dying creature receives any healing, it automatically stabilizes. In other words, Cure Wounds does everything Spare the Dying does by default, in addition to restoring 1d8 HP to the recipient. You are absolutely correct. Should have said something about that in the actual episode, but you're absolutely correct. That is a failing on my part. So I completely... Why didn't I think of Cure Wounds? What the fuck am I doing? It's the most basic spell. Or one of them. If I were going to, quote-unquote, fix Spare the Dying, I'd probably do it just by having the Healer's Kit only give advantage on a medicine check to stabilize someone, instead of having it be an automatic success. Absolutely fair. I would have no problem making this change, as I already feel like a Healer's Kit automatically succeeding is fairly unrealistic. Even if you have those tools available, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to use them effectively, especially under the stress in the middle of combat. That's fair. I guess that's all I have to say on that. Fair enough. As I said, I would talk about Locate City Bomb. Whoa! I see that I've already been beaten to the punch here, but I spent all morning writing this, damn it, so we're keeping it in. Hell yeah. That's right. If somebody says something, that doesn't mean you can't say it too. As long as it's not, you know, in there like 20 times before you. So the first thing to understand is that it's not something that was ever intended to exist. A good DM would generally not allow you to do this. It exists because D&D 3.5 had a huge number of source books, and it would simply not have been feasible to check the compatibility of everything in every book against everything in every other book. However, according to Raw, this is something you can do. Whilst I understand what you're saying here, and I agree with you, it's annoying to do so. I would say that it's feasible. It's just improbable that someone would take the time, you know? Especially Wizards of the Coast. Like, they don't need to take the time to do that. They already did enough to get the book out there, you know? It begins with a feat called Snow Casting, which can be found on page 50 of the Frostburn sourcebook. Ah, that's a name. With this feat, if you add a handful of... it's more just... I haven't heard that name in a while. With this feat, if you add a handful of freshly gathered snow or ice as a material component to any spell, that spell gains the Cold descriptor. Oh. Next, you need the Flash Frost spell metamagic feat from the Player's Handbook 2. This feat can only be applied to spells with the cold descriptor, and one of its benefits is to make the spell deal an extra 2 points of cold damage per spell level to all targets in the area of effect. I see where this is going. There is no requirement for the initial spell to deal damage for this extra damage to be added. This metamagic feat increases the level of the spell slot required by the spell by 1, which is already just giving you an automatic +2, isn't it? Now we go to page 79 of Complete Arcane for the metamagic feat Energy Substitution. With this feat, you can choose an energy type: acid, cold, electricity, or fire. If you apply this feat to any spell with an energy descriptor, it will use the chosen energy type instead. However, we only take this feat as a prerequisite for the next feat. Oh man, it's a whole thing. Energy Substitution is a prerequisite of energy admixture on page 78 of Complete Arcane. This feat is an improvement on energy substitution, which does not replace the original energy type, but instead adds an additional amount of damage of the new energy type equal to the amount of the original energy damage. For example, if you choose electricity as the new damage type, the original +2 cold damage per spell level now becomes +2 cold damage and +2 electricity damage per spell level. By the way, electricity is the energy type you need to choose for this. This feat increases the level of the spell slot required for the spell by 4. The spell's descriptor also changes to include both energy types used. Holy fuck. On page 76 of Complete Arcane is the metamagic feat Born of the Three Thunders, which can be applied to any spell with the electricity or sonic descriptor. Our spell has the electricity descriptor at this point. You can apply this feat when you cast the spell, and it will cause half of the spell's damage to be dealt as electricity damage, and half to be dealt as sonic damage. And the spell's descriptor also changes to electricity sonic. In other words, the spell is now dealing electricity and sonic damage instead of electricity and cold damage. This doesn't increase the level of the spell slot required, but more importantly, all creatures that take damage will be required to make a fortitude save to avoid being stunned for 1 round, and a reflex save to avoid being knocked prone. The key point here is that all creatures taking damage must now make a reflex save. Okay? And to complete our setup, we grab Explosive Spell from page 79, my brain switched those around, 79 of our Complete Arcane. This one increases the spell slot by another 2 levels and causes any creatures in a spell's area of effect that fail their reflex save to be thrown outside the nearest edge of that area, taking an additional 1d6 points of damage per 10 feet moved. Now, so far, what we have is a setup that adds +2 electricity damage and +2 sonic damage per spell level to any spell, and throws any creature failing its reflex save out of that spell's area of effect. Not too powerful, considering that this increases the level of the spell slot required by a total of +7. However, on page 166 of Races of Destiny, something terrible lurks. Locate City is a first-level Bard, Ranger, Sorcerer, Wizard spell that lets you sense the distance and direction to the nearest community of a minimum size designated by you at the time of casting. You can prepare it in an 8th level spell slot with all of the meta magic feats mentioned above. So a wizard of 15th level or a sorcerer of 16th level can do this. Bards and rangers don't go up that high, so you're safe from them. They also... Oh no, meta magic was only restricted by feats, that's right. Never mind. The area of effect of this spell is also stat descriptions and stuff, or minimums and stuff as well. But anyway, the area of effect of this spell is a 10-mile per level radius circle centered on you. That's a 150-mile radius for the 15th level wizard, or 792,000 feet, which means at the center of the circle, the damage is going to be 79,200 d6. Holy fuck, what? That makes that actually, like, that all tracked in my head, and I hate that. On a side note, I've seen a claim that you can cast this thing as low as 12th level, but I don't really see how that's possible. I think someone has messed up their math. It could be me, but I don't think it is. And that's a little bit beside the point anyway. In other words, if you can somehow convince your DM to let this happen, then congratulations, you just annihilated yourself and your party, along with something on the order of thousands to millions of people. You'd probably better cast Clone first, and then try to become a Lich, because you probably don't want to end up in the afterlife after that. Holy fuck, that's crazy. Man, 3.5 is a fucking trip. The fact that you can just do that because of the wording and description. Oh, that's fantastic. It's horrible, but it's fantastic. Now, with my voice dying, I'm at the edge of my rope here on my voice. We're going to read the last one from Con of 7, and this was only 2 hours ago. I made sure to include it because I saw it pop up. I made sure to look for it. So, because I knew you were typing this up. I remember you saying. So, this was on last week's episode. Warning! This is nearly Lux length comment. A nearly Lux length comment. I guess I had a lot to say. On the topic of dice that are different dice, I have some D12s that are actually D4s, because fuck D4s. Hey man, they're useful for stabbing people in the feet, I guess, because they were originally just caltrops. Anyway, now onto Pathfinder 2, because I have no restraint. Also, it's basically the only system I play nowadays. Fair enough. My voice is dying, but I only have one more comment from Con. I'm sorry. No, you're good. Don't worry about it. I'm kidding. Well, I'm not kidding about my voice dying, but it's not. There's no like, anything behind my my statement there. It's just the statement of fact. To quickly summarize, hero points can be spent to either re-roll a d20 or by spending all your hero points at once, auto-stabilize. See page 467 of your CRB for more details. That's core rulebook for those of you who don't know. The core rulebook also gives advice as to how often the GM should award hero points. About once every hour or play, or every 30 minutes if the threat is significant enough. See page 507 for more. I appreciate all of you with your adopting of the use of citation, page numbers, and everything. You're all lovely. But no player can ever have more than 3 at once. In addition, oh really? I didn't know that. In addition, all hero points go away at the end of a session. I knew about that. With one being auto-awarded at the start of the next one. Yes. All that said, I don't do any of that. Oh. Or at least, my table and I heavily modified how we deal with hero points. First, everyone at the table starts with 1, and only 1, hero point at the start of each session. But, between sessions, I award bottle caps. They act the same as hero points, but persist between sessions with no hard max. Okay. Because I'm not great at thinking quickly on my feet, I'll ruminate on the last session, and if anything sticks out in my mind, memorable or worthy, I assume, I'll announce that so-and-so got a bottle cap for doing such and such. Not quite as formal as that, but you get the idea. And to keep track of who has how many, I have a shared Google Sheet that also includes all of the notable heroics. And on occasion, I'll give out 2 bottle caps to someone, one to keep and the other to give to someone else. That way, it's not just me giving them to the fighter and cleric all the time. Fair enough. Second, we change what we use hero points and bottle caps for. We house ruled that one hero point can not only roll twice and take the better, but can be used to make the GM's monster rolls twice and take the worse. Gotcha. Or you can spend 1 to reroll any number of damage dice. Rolled a lot of 1s and 2s, reroll those bastards. Fair enough. Not as much as you may not like... Now, as much as you may not like the meta-ness, Alejo, hello, I imagine hero points as being the player's way of the universe rewarding a character with not dying or doing the thing really well, hopefully. And unlike unlike 5e's Inspiration, Pathfinder 2 kind of requires hero points, or at least hero points are a player's agency with dice rolls horribly wrong in a system that really punishes bad rolls. Anyway, hopefully there was something useful there. Sure. I don't know. You know how I feel about it. On the topic of character death, I've only had 3 PCs die on me. My first character death was also my first TTRPG character. In Pathfinder 1, I made a catfolk ninja with a bow because I had just come off of playing Skyrim with a Khajiit stealth archer because I'm basic. And also, it's like the best way to play Skyrim, unfortunately, and it's like the most optimal way to play Skyrim, unfortunately, so I understand entirely, you're fine. And because it was my first time playing a D&D-like game, and by that I mean if you're not doing the OP stuff of, like, enchanting, right? If you just do it straight up, Stealth Archer is, like, the way to play. And because it was my first time playing a D&D-like game, I didn't realize how bad a Constitution of 7 was, hence the username. Fair enough. Ah, that's cool. Needless to say, it didn't take long. But don't worry, my next character was an edgy half-Duragar Zen Archer monk. I've gotten better, I swear. No, you're fine, don't worry about it. My second character death was in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, back when I played 5e. Okay. Let's just say pissed off a Mind Flayer when you're 4th level sorcerer is a bad idea. Yeah, pissing him off is pretty bad. My third got... Oh, there goes my voice. Excuse me. My third got nuked in the face by a super mutant suicider in a Fallout-style campaign. It was also my sister's character's fault, too. Fun times all around. Now, on the other hand, in GMing a 3+ year Pathfinder 2 campaign, I've yet to kill a PC, knock on wood. The closest I've come is an NPC ally who got crit to death, 2 nat 20s followed by 2 nat 16s at low level. Yep, that's... Dude, I'll talk about that in a second. The party then went on a weeks or months-long journey across the countryside in order to bring them home. Oh, cool. There the NPC's aunt was a high enough level badass war cleric that she could cast Resurrection. And as a consequence of returning, the NPC's bones became coal black, which is only really noticeable when they smile. Nice. Cool. I like that. Yeah, death is one of those things that's, I guess, more uncommon than not in a lot of games, but that's usually because we're kind of trying to make it so that we can have the characters succeed. And it's one of those things. But I get what you mean with the 2 nat 20s followed by nat 16s at low level. I've told this story before, and I'll tell it again very briefly here. When we were playing our Age of Magic Fur, when everybody was an animal person of some sort in a campaign that only went on for a little while. We referred to it a bunch, but No Nat Ones, aka Brogan, he was a character named Kalungo. He was a Hadozi. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a gorilla, but with like a flying squirrel like thing under their arms, so they can kind of glide. And his character was shit in stats. His highest stat was a 12, and he got like nothing good in his stats. He put the 12, I think, in dexterity or strength, I can't remember, so that he could be a ranger. Hadozi ranger with his highest stat being a 12. Everything else was garbage. And we the party was like, I mean, out of game, out of character. They were gonna keep him alive as long as possible because it was fucking hilarious that he could die at any moment and was very shit, right? And one day we were playing and they were attacked by wargs, and this was 5e that we were using at the time. And the wargs were going after everybody, and he wanted to take the chance, run from the wargs to try to get up a tree or something, right? He wanted to get away from the wargs is basically the point. And he had imposed disadvantage somehow. I don't remember how. And I was like, okay, you should be okay. Let's do this. I rolled him out, and I fucking wish my camera had been on. But I swear to God, the universe wanted this fucking Hadozi to die, because both of those disadvantaged 20s, I rolled them both at the same time, and they both came up as natural 20s. And so they crit this fucking Hadozi. He was at like level 3, and or not even at that point. I think technically they weren't even characters yet. And they crit, and he fucking fell over and was instantly dead. and I felt so bad, but we could not stop laughing, and it's been a thing ever since for us, a meme for us in our group, and I think he's embraced it as a meme for his stuff. Having a Kalungo is just the vernacular for his channel. I think he's used it a couple of times, as far as I remember. But it just, man, low level, 2 nat 20s, fucking like max damage. I think it was when we did, it was either max damage or close to it that I rolled out for the actual damage. But regardless, it instantly fucking murked that guy, and Kalungo was no more, and it was fucking hilarious. So annoying to me because I was like, man, I have plans for Kalungo, but regardless, it was like, oh man. I felt bad because I felt like I had done something really wrong, and I wanted the camera on because I was like, there's no way that they're gonna believe this. There's no fucking way. Like, even if they say that they trust me, I still feel like they can't believe it, right? And I was just like, holy fuck. But anyway, so that's that. Anyway. That'll do it for us for tonight. My voice is you can hear it getting lower and getting more cracky because I'm dying of needing water. I'm gonna go get water, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Potentially, we'll see if I might do some more work that I need to do. But regardless, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you continue to enjoy the show. Obviously leave your comments and such. All of the subscriber things, and remember all the shilling things, they're all in the description. It doesn't matter if you do or don't. Just, hang out, watch the videos, recommend them to a friend if you think, or your worst enemy, who fucking knows, if if you think that we're worth watching and listening to. It's the easiest way to help us grow and all that shit. You know all the things. I don't have to say them. You've heard them from every other YouTuber. So, but what you haven't heard from every other YouTuber is thank you to our patrons. Not necessarily you have or have not. But thank you to our patrons. Again, that is, as I pull you up again, because somehow you got closed down for some reason. I don't remember closing the... Oh, no, I did accidentally. That's true. Brain. Anyway, so thank you again to our patrons. If it would fucking load. Hello? Well, I know you all. Off the top of my head. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. I lied. No, I'm kidding. I know all of you. That is, of course, Draco Kraken, Mog Zero, Rick, aka Unit Rico, Slazer, Steely, Drake, Cross, Chris, Frozen Spaghetti, Kill Chrono, and of course, Lux. Appreciate you all, and appreciate all of you who have been in the chat and continue to watch the VODs and everything. Again, thank you so much. Couldn't do this silly little show without all of you. I'm gonna go. So get the fuck out of here and have a good whatever day, night, evening, midday. Oh, goodbye. Get out of here. Goodbye. Go away. Go watch another YouTuber. Maybe go watch more of Jim Castle Archon. I think it was the channel or something. Watch somebody we covered that we recommend, or someone we don't. I'm not your dad. Go do something. Okay. Goodbye.